The the Curry County Board of Commissioners meeting and Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll stand with me, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, folks. We're going to amend and / approval of the agenda. Get my notepad out here. Any changes or?
I have none, sir.
All right.
None here, Mr. Chair.
Wow, that is awesome. I was all ready to do that and try to keep up with it. And
If I may,
yeah.
I didn't want to pull it from the agenda, but the Gazelle software upgrade, we just got that information yesterday morning, and it's about 7 pages, very important. I think it's very well done. I think our staff just got it yesterday morning, so no complaint there. Just my concern, Mr. Chair, is that if we wait, and I need more time to review it, but if we wait till October 6th, to approve this, then that's 3 weeks. I don't know if that would create issues, but it's a very important decision, and I just didn't have enough time, in my view, to properly review the information. So I'm asking the board if we can wait 3 weeks, or if we, I think, Council Pope, you mentioned maybe we could, on the 29th, if we had a special, I just need more time.
Yeah, if we are going to have a meeting for the planning appeal, so we will all be meeting. So if there's anything we need to do in an emergency, we can do it on the 29th. We did just get this contract yesterday, but I did take some time yesterday and look through it. And just to let you know, on the legal side, I have no issues with it. It's a pretty standard contract.
So, Court, I'm just wondering if between, in the discussion, because it's a discussion action item, 6D, there's not enough time to get, form an opinion during that discussion action item time?
Well, we could have a consensus, perhaps, but if we have a final decision on anything, I think we should postpone that to the 29th.
Let's wait till we get to that discussion action item, and we'll talk about it, and then we'll move on from there. How's that?
Fair enough.
Okay, so...
I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or question on that? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public comments, and before we do public comments, we have 3 or 4. I just like, just a pet peeve of mine, I'd like everybody just to be respectful, and I know y'all are. When you're addressing commissioners or anybody, I think we should use Mr. or Mrs. I guess you don't have any Mrs. Commissioners, but Mr. or Commissioner, unless we've said, and I've told everybody you can call me John, I don't have a problem with that, but I guess I'm old school. I don't like to hear somebody's last name without a Mr. or the person's title in front of that. So I appreciate that. And just real quick before that, there's a public announcement from Beth Barker Hidalgo that says for vaccinations every Wednesday, 11 to 4 at the event center on the Gold Beach, 392 Ellensburg. No referrals or fees needed. All 3 vaccines will be made available so people may make a choice, and that's from Beth Barker Hidalgo. So just a public announcement. So our first up is Mary Rowe, and I've given her leeway to have 2 readings, so it'll be about 4.5 minutes. So, Mary, you're on.
Thank you, Commissioner Herzog. So I have these 2 comments together, JJ. I'm Mary Rowe. I'm here to speak about housing. I hope that the county emergencies that are on today's agenda have your complete attention, and that you will take careful and quick action to save our citizens all of whom you are sworn to serve. I'm tired of seeing incredible effort given to the assignment of parking spaces and even part of an emergency BOC meeting spent on the assignment process of an office. Meanwhile, our county has been crumbling due to a mega emergency, which is at least equal to any other declared emergency. For 2 years, while in a declared state of emergency, our county BOC has done almost nothing to save we the people. People died. Beloved animal family members lost their lives or their families. Serious illnesses could not be treated. Women without homes were raped and beaten. People without homes lost most or even all of their belongings. Residents have lived without showers for over a year, unable to maintain proper hygiene during a pandemic, a risk for themselves or those whom they come into close contact with, such as fragile elders with whom they rode the Curry Public Transit and the bus drivers, including one driver, Gil, who just died from the COVID virus recently. People were in the cold, pouring rain in winter during this deadly pandemic with no shelters in Curry County. Even Oasis Shelter Home is closed, and the domestic violence shelters in adjoining counties are full and cannot take our residents. Some of our vulnerable elders, disabled, and children have not had shelter. Some of your constituents have been treated as second-class citizens and as being expendable, while our county government, you, engaged in social cleansing. Social cleansing is like ethnic cleansing, in that certain social groups of citizens are treated as being less deserving during a time of scarce resources, and rationalizations of why not to provide them with access to those resources abound, with a willingness to even regard them as being expendable. This has increased and become more of an accepted value in our culture recently. The Housing Committee, as currently structured, cannot deliver developed housing and other solutions quickly enough for the needs of our citizens. Given the recent magnitude of the emergency due to sharply escalating housing prices and rents, the tremendous risk to our citizens, and the allocation of county resources, including staff time, demands an altered approach, one that I think is both sensible, reasonably inclusive, and generous on Economic Development Coordinator Madison's part, the newly structured group that she will present later today. Her structure was painstakingly and carefully crafted by a county representative with suitable experience and expertise. Please celebrate her new structure as being in the best interest of our citizens, our county government, and our valued volunteers. And then secondly, lastly, I need to state that the crucial position of housing development specialist or housing grant writer needs to be workshopped with the Economic Development Coordinator's recommendations as an excellent starting point to perhaps be fine-tuned. Commissioner Boyce's 3-in-1 position on the agenda today is completely unrealistic, and his qualifications, for instance, are not the right type of qualifications necessary for such a position. A degree in English or journalism, for example, is not what is needed. Rather, an ability to design programs, create goals and objectives, define measurable progress and processes, know about grant requirements and opportunities, understand how to match funds, etc., is what is needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gordon Clay.
Good morning,
Morning.
sirs. For the record, my name is Gordon Clay from Brookings, Oregon. COVID report. In the 2 weeks ending yesterday, Curry County ran 23rd in transmissions, very good, per 100,000 population, but still 164 cases in the last 2 weeks. That's 11 a day. We ranked 32nd in positive cases, which is really good. We're the 27th largest county, but we remain at the 13th lowest vaccination rate at 46.9%. Know that COVID-19 is here and will always be here. It's not going away. The main question is, how long is it going to take for the unvaccinated to get vaccinated or die if they don't get vaccinated, to get it under control before it mutates into a version much more deadly than Delta. Hopefully a vaccine will be available soon for the 48 million under 12 age kids. Check out zeroattempts.org/mandates.html to hear the commissioners debate the implementation of any mandates in Curry County. Statements like, quote, "There's no clear science on vaccinations and types of masks people wear and how much they block." Quote, "Too many variables on vaccinations. Which ones work? Which ones don't? Which ones have side effects? Which ones do you need 2 doses of?" All that information is readily available. Quote, "Europeans have been vaccinated and there are more of them in the hospital than there are people that haven't been vaccinated." Interesting where that came from. I visited the statements made by I listened to the statements made by the county employee claiming that vaccinated people are actually dying 3 times faster than unvaccinated people in Oregon, and that came from OHA, they said, which just doesn't match with numerous Oregon medical facilities experiencing where 97% of the COVID beds are taken up by the unvaccinated. As of September 7th of 2021, more than 176 million people in the United States have been fully vaccinated. During that same period, the CDC has received reports from 49 states and territories of 14,115 patients with COVID-19 breakthrough infections. 11,440 of those are hospitalized or non-fatal, and 2,675 died. That equals 0.0000015% of all fully vaccinated people in the U.S. have died by COVID. However, 663,929 people have died because they weren't able to get vaccinated or they chose not to. I watched the Grants Pass City Council August 18th business meeting where they had Asante Three Rivers Medical Group give a very thorough, detailed instruction presentation debunking these issues and that our leaders seem to have trouble with. What does our Curry County Health Department think about these claims? Maybe they can put on a similar presentation and teach the doubters that are doing nothing to answer their questions. And I'd also like to know, it's been 4 months since I requested knowledge on the suicide prevention number. I have not heard one word from Casey or Sissy since that time. It was disturbing coming here today. On both major entrance doors to this is a sign stating masks are mandatory for anyone planning to do business in the annex. However, when one enters the premise, it doesn't take long to see that it is a lie and that the sign they trusted was not truthful, it was a lie, and they would be endangering themselves to do business within these walls. You ought to get your signage corrected. And I just want to remind you, if those of you who are looking for something that isn't a vaccine, there's a new providine iodine that everybody's getting, and getting liver and kidney problems with it. And a number of people already died. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Gordon, would you mind taking 30 seconds and repeat the very last part of your presentation there? I didn't quite get that.
Okay.
Go back to the microphones, please, sir.
Yeah.
Just the very last part.
It was disturbing coming here today. On both major entrance doors is a
excuse
sign
me?
stating
I
mask.
got that you mentioned iodine or something similar.
Oh, okay.
Please.
It is,
I'm Brett Cecil of Curry County, Democrats, and resident of Port Orford. Thank you for giving me the time to present my concerns and insights with you today. I've come to rehash some old continuing business. Unfortunately, our county communities are no better off regarding COVID-19 since we last met on September 1st. Curry County has endured an additional, by my count, 188 new cases of COVID-19 as well as 2 new deaths. I live in an RV park in Port Orford, of which I'm aware, and since our last meeting, 5 families in my park have been infected. Thankfully and fortunately, there have been no deaths. Unfortunately, we experienced the death of Carlton Strom, the vice chair of Curry County Republicans, to whom you all referred in your last meeting, and that he is survived by a young wife and 4 very young children. I also suffered a loss in my Democratic ranks of a member who had an emergency unrelated to COVID-19 who died while awaiting an ER bed in Curry County. Of course, my condolences go out to all of those that are affected by this pandemic. Yesterday, our neighbor to the south, California, spoke loud and clear with regard to this pandemic. Californians overturned an attempted recall of Governor Newsom, supporting their governor in his efforts to keep them safe and bring this tragic pandemic to an end, in addition to denying the lunatic right fringe that, for whatever reason, desires to let this virus run rampant across our nation, the opportunity to inflict further tragic consequences. And at an infusion facility. This is a treatment that will greatly improve survivability and lessen the impact of COVID-19 infection, but must be administered within just a few days of becoming infected. Ms. Hunter was correct in stating, and I agree, that this treatment should be made available in Curry County along with staff and supplies necessary to carry out this treatment. It most certainly can help reduce the number of COVID-19 patients and that require a hospital bed in Curry County. I wish also to address comments you made, Mr. Posh, when you said, and I quote, "There is no clear science on vaccinations or the type of masks they wear." I'm sorry, Mr. Posh. The science is very clear with regard to both of these items. I refer you to OHA's latest COVID-19 breakthrough report and will read pertinent excerpts. During the week of August 29 through September 4, there were nearly 14,000 cases of COVID-19. 81% were unvaccinated. 19% were vaccine breakthrough cases. Overall, there have been more than 16,000 vaccine breakthrough cases identified in Oregon. Breakthrough cases have been reported in all 36 counties. Cases are much more common in unvaccinated individuals than in vaccinated individuals. The rate of cases among unvaccinated individuals in the most recent week was approximately 5 times the rate among those who are fully vaccinated. As COVID-19 cases have increased across Oregon, vaccine breakthrough cases have also increased, but at a much lower rate than in the unvaccinated. Vaccination remains the most effective tool to reduce the spread of COVID-19. That comes directly from the breakthrough report from OHA. Then further you stated, Mr. Posh, and I quote, "In some foreign countries there are more vaccinated in the hospitals than non-vaccinated. As for foreign countries, I cannot provide evidence nor proof of their circumstance. And unless you, Mr. Posh, can, I demand that you provide verifiable proof of that comment or strike it from the public record. Disinformation has no place in our discourse of public safety." Again, I refer you to OHA's COVID-19 breakthrough report. Additionally, Mr. Tony Vudi claimed to quote an OHA report when he inserted public comment out of order while the board was discussing item 7K on their last agenda. Mr. Vudi claimed that he garners his information straight from OHA and that OHA statistics indicated, and I quote, that vaccinated people are dying 3 times as often as non-vaccinated people. I'm sorry, Commissioners, the science is very clear with regard to vaccination. Again, I refer you to OHA's latest COVID-19 breakthrough report and ask you to strike Mr. Vudi's comments from the record and that you refrain from allowing public input out of order unless you allow all of us to do the same. I and Connie Hunter both desired to correct Mr. Vudi, but were told that the time for public comment had passed. I also highly recommend that you verify your sources, as Mr. Vudi stood before this body and deceived you, me, and the public with erroneous misinformation that is verifiable from our own OHA. I wish to recognize Mr. Boyce's attempt to encourage mask wearing and tell you, Mrs. Herzog and Posh, how infuriated I am in your decision to ignore illness and death of your friends and constituents, as well as downplaying what OHA states, and I quote, "Vaccination remains the most effective tool to reduce the spread of COVID-19. I'll close by saying, your duty as commissioners in Curry County is first to the safety of the public. OHA has given us scientific proof that vaccination reduces the spread as well as reducing the detrimental effects of COVID-19. I ask, no, I beg you, to utilize American Rescue Plan dollars to get behind a vaccination messaging program and get our county fully vaccinated. I'm here to ask you today to attempt every possibility at your disposal to protect the citizens of Curry County from this often deadly and most always destructive illness, to consider the circumstances and needs of all the individuals whom you serve, not just those that agree with you. I believe that this death and destruction falls to you, as it seems there is more than sufficient science and information available to you when making your decisions of public safety. Again, vaccination and masking can bring this mess to an end, and you can have your businesses. I and the Curry County Democrats remain willing and available to assist the board and the County of Curry in any way possible whenever you may need. I'm available for any questions or comments you may have. Thank you for hearing me today.
Quick clarification, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Sir, just the pronunciation of Anthony, it's Vowdy.
Vowdy.
I made that
Thank you.
mistake early on years ago when I first met him, so just that clarification. That's all. Thank
I
you.
appreciate that clarification.
David Barnes.
Good morning, David Barnes, I'm the County Treasurer. I'm not sure if I'm speaking as a treasurer or as a private citizen this morning. I'm going to keep it brief because there's other items on the agenda I'd like to comment on later. But last month there was an issue where I was ambushed and accosted outside the building over a parking space. Last week there was an email that was sent out that refers to a former employee of this county, and a threat was made against her and her family. Later on today in executive session, there's been a request for law enforcement to be present during the executive session. I just want to let this board know that there's people, many people, besides myself in this building, who fear for our own safety. safety every day when we come to work. It's a shame that this board can't do anything about it yet, that something has to happen before something can be done. But I just want to make that known. I need to let the public know that there's numerous people, at least 6 or 7, who have come to me already and said that they fear for their safety coming to this building. They've watched his actions have become more irrational and more delusional over the course of the last few months, and people fear for their safety. And I just want to bring that to the attention of this board and to the public right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will go to presentations, and our first one is ASACE, United States Army Corps of Engineers.
Good morning. Yeah, this is, are you there, Greg?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. And I don't know if you want to come on, and then we're going to make you, Eric, if you can maybe come on out and make him a presenter. He's got a presentation for us. Thank you. Thanks for coming, Greg. Appreciate it. Greg was going to be here, but because of the COVID outbreaks that we've been having, he decided that he better do it virtually.
From what, Salem, or?
I believe he's in Salem, yes. Thanks,
Yeah,
Eric.
sorry I couldn't be there in person. Would have liked to have been, but it just didn't work out.
All right, you are a
And
presenter.
everybody- Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Fiscal year 22.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of problem controlling it here, so let me catch up. All right, just wanted to go over what the past, current, and future status of the road river dredging is, and let everybody know what happened this '23, we had 20 days of weather where we did not get the survey boat out to get another survey. And in that time period, choked down the channel where the captain did not think he could get in and dredge, and this area part here infilled over 6 feet in those 20 days. So on our, what we have specified for the contractor to do is come in with the appropriate equipment and dredge exactly what I showed you in the base items before. The contractor had a problem as right before they were getting ready to mobilize to come up, they were dredging in Oakland, and their clamshell rig broke down, and so they had to scramble at the last minute, and they substituted a long reach excavator in. With their problems and what they had in their schedule, they couldn't mobilize until 1st of August. They specified in their documentation to us that they would be showing up with an 8 cubic yard bucket. They tested, and with the reach and their equipment, they did not handle that loading. They showed up with a 3 cubic yard bucket, which was not adequate whatsoever. And we asked them, you know, what the problem was there, and they said they were fabricating a 5.5 cubic yard lightweight bucket. Part of the problem that we also had is since we didn't award the option and said that the equipment would be able to get in the different site conditions. We indicated that we would have entrance clear to 12 feet, which we weren't able to get the equipment in after that 20 days of infill. And so they could only dispose on the high tide. They would have to light load their scow to get across the bar, which would only allow them to do 2,000 cubic yards a day. And they would not price the unknown inefficiencies. So that could have really driven up the cost, and not knowing those costs really concerned us. So that's when we decided to stop work, when we figured out through calculations that they would not even be able to probably reach the boat basin access entrance by the end of the in-water work limit. And at that point, I felt like we were just throwing money away and not accomplishing what we intended to do. So as I mentioned earlier, the contract option that proposed proceed expired on 6/4. The infill was only recognized after the contractor had changed equipment. When we agreed to let them change equipment, we had no idea that we were going to have that much infill and block the entrance. And we could not work with the contractor to come up with a fair and reasonable justification for the entrance request for proposal. And honestly, they didn't, that long reach excavator wasn't the right equipment since their clamshell broke down. The other work that we are looking to in the future, this upcoming year, the Coast Guard is needing their access channel dredged to be able to get their 47-foot boat out. I have a meeting at 11 o'clock with the Coast Guard and the design team to almost give the same presentation to show them where we stand and talk to them about adding this area next year so they can get their boat out. And they're also looking at rebuilding the dock here, so to allow them to operate out of there. Some additional information that I've tried to figure out what the problem is at the road and how come it's still infilling so fast. And this is just some of my preliminary research. In the last 10 years, 8 dams have been removed or modified on the 250-mile stretch of river. On the main stem of the river, in green here, these are the dams that have been removed. These are the structures that have been removed on the tributary branches, and all these are below the existing Jess Dam upriver at 157. In addition to that, in the last 16 years, 22 dams and structures have been removed or modified on this stretch of water. I can't tell you what impact this has. We've never done a study on it. I don't do any. I think USGS did a study, but I don't think that it was that in depth. But these are some of the things that I'm just bringing up that are adding to our problems of keeping the river open in my preliminary research. The jetty structure was not meant to be a flushing jetty system. It was built in 1961. There are links on the facts on it. It was meant to be a jetted entrance, as you can see in the picture here, and that was intended to let water flow out and not back up water and able to flood some of the low-lying areas. Some of our other jetties are decked down so that they actually increase the velocity there, and they are self-flushing. That there's higher ground in some of the other projects that wanted that. As far as I can tell in my research, that was not the case here, and they went with this jetted structure, not to have flooding upriver. That's also contributing to the problem. The gravel mining has stopped. Tidewater, as I understand it, lost the gravel permit approximately 10 years ago to multiple clean water violations, and they're no longer able to mine gravel there. And Freeland Rock is currently not mining there. They're concentrating all their work in Chetco. So I believe that, I don't know what effect it has. It's probably a small effect, but that is part of the problem with the approaching gravel market. Here are some pictures of the entrance and the problems that we've had with it in the past. As we walk through this, you can see the channels, and here is the sand spit that forms every year on the entrance that always gives us a problem and impedes the federal navigation channel. And these are just some historical photos to show you how it moves around and the problem that we have with pinpointing location and how it interferes with the federal channel. So here you can see it's blocking both the entrance channel and the boat basin access channel. Moving on to 2000, here it moves back and it doesn't impede the federal navigation channel as much as it does, but it still has an effect, and you can see it moving up and down. Also here forms a little sand island. 2003, it moves more seaward, but extends halfway into the federal navigation channel. 2004, it doesn't impede the channels at all. It just seems to hold back here. 2005, no problems at all, just barely encroaches into the boat basin access channel. 2011, again, no other problem, seems to be subside down here. 2013, starts building out and barely encroaching into the federal navigation channel. And then 2014, the federal navigation channel is not shown on this one, but you can see that it extends pretty far into the federal navigation channel. I just show those for a history of changing conditions that we're constantly having to deal with. So with that, I hope that shows you the past of what we've tried to deal with, our problems that we have this year, not only with the contractor, but a late start in equipment, and the need to cancel the contract in order to reserve the money for another more successful attempt this year. We just didn't want to waste all the money and not get the work done at all, and not have any additional funds to attempt the work again. So with that, I'll open it up and answer any questions I can, and cover anything that might have been confusing.
Well, Greg, first I'd like to thank you for doing this. I know I sent a letter out with my, I was disappointed that the river didn't get cleaned out. We've got a lot of local businesses that live off of the, their incomes are derived from the river. We've got Alexis Landing that's actually probably going to be landlocked by next year unless we have a huge event this winter. So I appreciate, firstly, you answering my letter, and then secondly, the conversation that we had and your willingness to do this presentation to the board. I appreciate that very much. Could you talk a little bit about the plan for next year? Because evidently we're not going to get anything now till next year. I'm sure we have a lot of our locals that are listening, or going to be listening to this with that same question. And then also, if you could expound a little bit on something you touched with me in a phone conversation about that seawall and the possibility of being able to extend that in the future.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Next year, we are taking all the lessons that we've learned over the last 2 years now, with specifying the actual equipment to bring instead of opening up the period performance and trying to leave it so that we get better prices. We need to specify a beginning work period within a certain range. We need to start right at the beginning of the in-water work window, so we need to have it so that it's required that the contractors show up right in the first 2 weeks of June and show up with the appropriate equipment and leave it on site for the duration of the project. The other thing that I think that will make it successful and more attractive to a contractor is we normally have an Oregon Washington clamshell contract where we go up and down the coast and include some of the coastal projects as part of the Oregon Washington clamshell. Usually Port Orford is always included in that, and then the various ports like the boat basin access channel is included in that on a roughly rotating 5-year plan. we think about doing a standalone contract, which includes road, Port Orford, and the U.S. Coast Guard access channel, so it's more attractive to a contractor to bid that and have a larger block of work so that they can assure that they're going to round out their schedule for that year instead of just making it a very small item where they're not interested in for bigger projects. The other thing that we have determined that we need to do is we need to make the award for this in early March and get somebody obligated to completing the work and not starting, letting them have the flexibility to start out in August. That is a lot of the major ones that we're looking at now, in addition to what we have in the contract this year, to make it successful next year. I believe it was a lot of, almost like a perfect storm where the contractor's equipment went down, their selection of equipment, and the infill where we weren't able to get surveys kind of formed to make this unsuccessful this year. That's no excuse, but I just thought those are the factors that made us unsuccessful. And the last thing that I can assure you of is being a coastal resident myself and understanding the impact that this work has on the communities. I take it personally, and I am very disappointed that we didn't get it done this year, but I do take it personally, and I am expecting success next year. I'll really do everything I can to make this successful every year because I do understand the impact that it has on your community and businesses and just the whole overall health of the community.
Okay. And can you touch a little bit on the extension of the seawall? Or the jetty, I mean, extend the jetty?
The jetty does need everything that, back to the slide here. It looks like it's a little bit short, and it looks like that we need to do a study on how to make that more efficient. I believe from talking to our hydraulic engineers that extending the North Jetty seaward about 700 feet will keep the littoral sand, such the sand moving up and down the coast on the coastal currents. Currently now with the shorter jetty on the north side, it kind of eddy currents around there and falls out on the ebb tide. And that's the infill we're getting. From all the studies that I've been able to read, it appears to be increasing that north jetty 700 feet would prevent that from happening. We really need to get the money and do a more in-depth study with the current conditions and all the more current information. I believe this study was done back in the 1980s, so we do need to update that and take another look at it. But from everything that I've read, that seems to be part of the solution to this. In addition to getting that advanced maintenance area and gravel bar so that when it does rain, the water is able to flush more. So a combination of keeping that advanced maintenance area dug so that we have a fine channel and extending that jetty out are two solutions. Let me just be honest with you. The way that we get money for Corps of Engineers projects, I believe that Commissioner Pash, you know this, but I just want to put it out there for everybody else's knowledge, is it's really based on the amount of commercial tonnage that you get in and out of port. And that's how federal projects are ranked on the money that they get. So unfortunately, road doesn't have a lot of commercial industry. They don't ever compete very well on the national level for getting money. So that's always a problem. EMWA is trying to get commercial fishing as part of that poundage that's caught, and so that helps our Oregon ports. But right now, getting money for these kinds of things is very challenging. I'll just leave it at that.
Any other questions, Court?
Thank you. Always good to hear from you, Mr. Greer. Thank you for, I can't imagine the pressure on you with all of the ports up and down Oregon having somewhat similar issues. And something you said just a moment ago there on the commercial emphasis of the Rogue River entrance into the ocean. We're recognized as the most dangerous port for ingress and egress on the Oregon coast, or at least one of the top two. So it's kind of tough when we know that we have great commercial fishing off of the Rogue Reef, and yet and we have a port that's set up for that. At least it was set up years ago, and then not to be able to take advantage of that in the sense of safer in and out passages for our commercial boats. So it's almost become a thing of the past. Not an Army Corps of Engineer problem, but just a recognition of where we are on that. And then real quickly, the other thing, you mentioned the dam removals and how that has impacted the additional gravel coming down the river. But and this is true to the Chetco as well, because of the fires of 2017, 2018. We lost so much watershed, as you're, I'm sure, aware, and I don't know how we would ever determine a study for that, but it has really negatively impacted. I think that's where a great amount of the gravel is coming from, in particular on the Rogue, the largest tributary, the Illinois. We've had 2 major fires there, 6 in the last 30 years. So down the road, hopefully, maybe we can research and study that, review a little better on what that means and how it's impacting us now. But thank you again for taking the time today.
Chris?
Sure. I can refine a little bit of what you just said. Oregon has 8 of the 10 most dangerous bars in the whole United States.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more pronounced than the 2. Rogue and Chetco and Coquille are some of the worst ones on that list, but we face even more challenges with dangerous bars. And to just expand a little bit on your fire damage, in my research too, it also has shown that it takes about 2 years for the sediment from fire damage to make its way down to the entrance. So that is something else that's on my radar. I would expect to start seeing some of that show up a little bit this year and the majority of it next year. So that's another problem that we need to contend with. But that is on my radar also, and I am pushing that up the chain to show that that's going to be a potential problem on the road too.
Yeah, one more thing on that jetty. It's kind of a catch-22 on that. I believe we'd have a lot more commercial fishing if the jetty was safe. I'm sure you probably know that the Coast Guard is constantly rescuing boats off of that the mouth of the river because we get that horrible backwash there once the winds are over about 5 or 6 miles an hour, which is a normal day here. So it's kind of a catch-22. I think we'd have a lot more commercial fishing if we had the wall, but we need the wall to have the commercial fishing. So that's something that I hope to continue to promote in Washington here next spring. And I just want to say thank you for the relationship and the time that you've given us. And I look forward to speaking to you in the coming weeks and months about getting what we can get done next spring in the river.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I totally agree with you. I believe that if we were able to control the flow of the entrance, we could get a lot more commercial fishing vessel there, which I believe is highly desirable. And I would be happy to schedule another update similar to this in the spring, just to let everyone know where we are and where we stand. So I'm more than happy to do that. Say the March time frame after we hopefully will be awarded. Maybe I'll get to come back and do another update then.
Thanks, Greg, and I'll look forward to talking to you in between sometime. We'll touch base.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. So next presentation, Commissioner Boyce, is hyperparabolic.
You want a break?
Or do we need to take a break? It's almost 10. Let's do a break. That way we'll get all the IT set up. Be back here at 10:05. And court's got a presentation with Connie Hunter.
Hi, thank you for having me today, Commissioners. And I'm Connie Hunter. I live in South Curry County, but I am a proud citizen of Curry County. So I can't tell you how much it means to be here today to talk about hyperbaric oxygen therapy on behalf of veterans. Although anything that's good for veterans is also good for the community at large. And so much of the community development work that I've taken the time to invest in, really, I know it opens doors for the community as well. So hyperbaric oxygen therapy is the use of prescribed high-pressure oxygen to help treat a variety of health conditions and diseases. Each cell in the body needs oxygen to preserve, repair, and enhance cellular function. Breathing 100% oxygen at pressures greater than sea level helps flood the body with enriched oxygen, leading to a cascade of positive benefits.
I'm Dr. John Chambers, and I'd like to introduce you to a new therapy that grants pass, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So each of our cells has 4 basic needs. The primary need of our cells is oxygen. So when we're using a hyperbaric chamber, what we're trying to do is drive oxygen to those cells that through injury or sickness or illness of any sort, post-surgery, might be deprived of oxygen. So in a hyperbaric chamber, what we do is we increase the pressure, and we do that with pure oxygen in this chamber. We're able to take you to about twice, maybe even a little more of the atmospheric pressure around us, and that increases the oxygen availability to your cells. So as we look at this chamber, we'll see it has this big heavy door, and it will contain all of that pressure. So as we put the patient in there, they're surrounded by oxygen, and we're driving that oxygen into their system and improving their healing rate. We also have what are called soft hyperbaric chambers. These are a little bit different than the acrylic chamber in that these are compressed with air and oxygen is driven through an oxygen mask. They don't go quite as deep and they can't deliver quite as much oxygen, but they are valuable treatment for many conditions. Go in and not put any lotions or perfumes on as you go to the chamber. The next step is for us to approach the gurney. The gurney is very accommodating. We'll bridge it before so that anyone resident who will be getting on should be able to accommodate. There's also a step stool and a nice little space for us to do. So once you're at this point, the rest is just relaxation. There's a blanket provided for you and a pillow. It's important as you go into the chamber that you are there comfortable, and there's a technician with us here that will help us see you in the chamber at this point. So here we go. Communication is important while you're in the chamber. Counseling, detailed issues, and higher treatment, and it's important to know that you can always hear me, and there's a room for her to talk to you. The rest is to sit back and laugh, one with your host, or take a nap. One thing to watch for when you're in the therapy, that reviews have to include depression. So you want to clear your ears much like being in an airplane. But once you can clear them, they're just fine. Oxygen is one of the most important needs of our nervous system and our whole body. As we drive oxygen to your system, it can help you to heal at a much faster rate. We're excited to see you at Southern Oregon HBOQ for your first stop.
And thank you for rolling that. If you could please take this handout number 1 and flip it all the way to where it says covered conditions versus non-covered conditions, real quick, because there is a situation with HBOT that's similar to the vaccinations, actually. The bottom line is not every treatment that people can get with HBOT are FDA approved, and that's simply because the treatment modalities and the applications are all relatively new. Every time they start treating one thing, they realize that there is a benefit in another area, and that data required to get FDA approval on some of those other conditions is not available yet, simply because they're new discoveries. And so I'd like to ask the help of the commissioners on this. So Chair Herzog, I'm seeking permission to have Commissioner Pash read into the record the covered conditions, and Commissioner Boyce read into the record the non-covered conditions. And that's, like I said, on page 4. I just think it's really important to get that clarification, and I could save my voice. You can see I'm running out of it today. So is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, Commissioner Pash, is that okay?
Yes, covered conditions. Also referred to as on-label, these conditions have been approved by the FDA for HBOT and are generally covered by insurance. Air or gas embolism, carbon monoxide poisoning, and smoke inhalation, central renal artery occlusion, chronic refractory osteomyelitis. Oh, I feel like a doctor.
I would do worse, I promise you.
Crash injury, compartment syndrome, and other acute traumatic ischias, decompression sickness, diabetic lower extremity wounds, failed skin grafts and flaps, gas gangrene, necrosting, soft tissue infections, non-healing wounds, radiation tissue damage, severe anemia, and thermal burns.
Clerk.
Non-covered conditions. Thank you, Connie, by the way. Conditions that have not yet been approved by the FDA. In general, off-label conditions are not covered by insurance. Anoxic brain injury, cancer side effects, support of immune system, cerebral palsy, chronic fatigue syndrome, chronic pain, concussion and traumatic brain injury, Crohn's disease, fibromyalgia, inflammatory bowel syndromes, interstitial I'm going to try that again. Interstitial cystitis, Lyme disease, macular degeneration, migraine headache, multiple sclerosis, reflex sympathetic dystrophy syndrome, retinitis pigmentosa, rheumatoid arthritis, other arthritic conditions, spinal cord injuries, sports injuries, stroke, surgery preparation and recovery, symptoms of scleroderma, and ulcerative colitis.
You guys did way better than I would have been able to do, and I practiced all week.
That was a good
Actually
call.
longer than that, so thank you for your help. With regards to veterans and HBOT, I'm going to quote U.S. Senator from Alabama, Coach Tommy Tuberville, who said, It is our responsibility, our duty as members of Congress to prioritize the care of the brave men and women who risk their lives to protect their fellow Americans. This is especially true for those veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and mental illnesses that often lead to suicide. Why shouldn't we go the distance to make any treatment available that will help address the epidemic among our veterans? Of course, he goes on to say, serving on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, I've heard from veterans and veteran service organizations such as Patriot Angels, Military Veterans Advocacy Incorporated, Fleet Reserve Association, and others who point to hyperbaric oxygen therapy as a treatment that has produced positive results for individuals suffering from severe head and brain injuries. Though through HBOT, patients breathe pure oxygen in a pressurized environment, giving their lungs access to more oxygen than they would normally get. The goal is to fill the blood with enough oxygen to repair tissues and restore normal body function. Many veterans say HBOT helps their traumatic brain injuries and PTSD, ailments that can lead to suicide, and it's Suicide Awareness Prevention Month, so this is very timely. But perhaps most importantly, HBOT is a holistic treatment. Instead of loading up on prescription medications, this treatment involves no drugs, no endless trips to the pharmacy, and no medicine schedules to keep up with. It's not done yet, obviously. But for conditions not yet approved by the FDA, treatment is generally available, For conditions not yet approved by the FDA, treatment is generally not covered by insurance and is not available at hospital-based hyperbaric centers. Independent freestanding providers, like the one I just had, of HBOT, for example, are able to offer the opportunity to HBOT paid for by your insurance and the VA isn't covering it. There are a number of ways to go, including if we have a sliding scale and a business plan that accommodates a sliding scale by people that can pay full amount, and your Medicare, Medicaid, and insurers paying full price, and some connections with veterans nonprofits, you can fill in that gap of expense for that individual veteran and actually seek underwriting per veteran. And that's one of the things that's done by an organization called America's Mighty Warriors. And I'm really familiar with this organization. They're in Arizona. The first Navy SEAL to fall in Arizona, in Iraq, was Mark Lee. And his mother, Debbie Lee, is a Gold Star family member, and my Gold Star family members know all the Gold Star family members and work with them in Arizona. But the America's Mighty Warriors program takes case by case and tries to connect a veteran with an opportunity to receive HBOT wherever it needs to be. Now, HBOT treat business plan that brings veterans here for treatment as well. So we can treat our communities in Curry County and multiple populations, but we can also service and provide income to our area if we really work to get veterans to participate in a program like that. And believe me, there are so many ways that we could build this program. So I reached out to the Oregon Health Authority, Behavioral Health, about a year ago, and I sent information about a program in North Carolina because I was thinking, how can maybe the state can help fund this? And the model program in Carolina is based on the North Carolina Veterans Traumatic Brain Injury and Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Treatment and Recovery Act, which creates a fund for HBOC for veterans. And it also allows medical professionals to prescribe HBOC to North Carolina veterans who have had traumatic brain injuries and or have PTSD. So other states, North Carolina, California, Florida, Oklahoma, and Texas have recently introduced similar hyperbaric access measures. The difference with the Carolina model is that the VA is involved. Eligible veterans will receive treatment at a VA administration medical center where they have hospital equipment and hyperbaric oxygen treatment there. No such capabilities are here in Oregon at this time, so there are two alternatives, a civilian hospital setting like CHN or a local provider that is into more holistic types of treatments. And the reason I make that distinction, if we're trying to solve both medical and mental health, behavioral health issues and provide support, and which we direly needed in Curry County, bottom line is probably freestanding local provider would be the best option. So one of the things that I wanted to also let you know is Indiana, for example, has, and you have this information, a spinal cord and brain injury research fund. And those kinds of things can be advocated at the state level. And the reason that I bring up Indiana is I worked to bring resources to an organization called the Spinal Cord Society in the past. And the research scientist that was working on that we were trying to fund through the Spinal Cord Society was regenerating spinal nerves, and his name was Dr. Richard Borgens. He's passed away about 2 years ago. But at the beginning of Iraq and when things started going in the Middle East, I reached out to him and I said, you know, let's look at traumatic brain injuries. And at this date and time, the Center for Paralysis Research at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Purdue University does work on regenerating spinal nerves and working on TBI. But Dr. Borgens brought up to me at the time that I was working with him so that I could talk intelligently about the things that you have to do to regenerate spinal nerves or anything, is to talk about stem cell mobilization. And stem cell mobilization is significant with regards to HBOT because it has the power to increase stem cells in blood circulation 8-fold. These stem cells already exist in the body and have the unique ability to differentiate into any type of tissue, making them a valuable tool for regeneration and healing. At that time, Dr. Borgens was working on research, as I said, regenerating spinal nerves. But when the Spinal Cord Society actually found Dr. Borgens, he was researching snail's eyes. You clip off a snail's eye, it will grow a new eye, an optical nerve, and the skin cells to support it. So he knew there were chemical pieces of the puzzle, and HBOT stimulates those chemical things in your body. And it also, besides dealing with making sure that we get that blood into the system, which oxygen in your system is almost like it's a natural antibiotic, is the way it was explained to me. So it also causes the body to create mitochondrial support, which can repair your body's ability to generate ATP. And ATP is the chemical that stores and releases energy necessary for many cellular processes. And bottom line is those cellular processes, as we get older and age, slow down. So this can help with that. HBOT, with regards to inflammation, Alzheimer's and inflammation disease, you heard rheumatoid arthritis mentioned. The anti-inflammatory benefits are can't be underestimated, and even in treatments like Parkinson's disease. Another benefit of HBOT is neovascular exaggeration. HBOT stimulates the growth of new blood vessels in the body, which increases circulation, allowing revitalized tissue to thrive even after the treatment protocol has been completed. Now, the video we just saw talked about 2 types of hyperbaric oxygen chambers. There are actually more. There's a portable one that are used sometimes when there's a suspected spinal cord injury. You can get that person right at the point of the accident into a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, and whether or not they've got a diagnosed spinal cord injury isn't the issue. It's what can we do if there is one in advance. So it starts the process of healing right then. Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you. We're just winding down a little bit. When I contacted you 3 months ago, the number one thing we might be able to do for veterans, this was something that you instantly,
It's me.
That's okay, showed some interest toward, and how it might benefit veterans in Curry County and elsewhere, and then it evolved into other people. This has just been incredibly interesting. As far as a goal goes, an approach, it would seem like we might want to look at Curry Medical Center in Brookings, which could benefit both Del Norte and Curry County and Sutter and Curry General Hospital. Probably would be a long shot 2-year project, but you know, I'm assuming and asking you to consider leading in that effort, and but within 2 years, maybe some of the insurances will be more receptive. And you know, just learn all we can about this. Maybe Curry County could follow the lead of Three Rivers in Grants Pass. Thank you.
And I just wanted to mention, the reason I include the City of Brookings information is that the City of Brookings has come in with a letter of support for Coast Community Health. And the idea is to co-locate a number of community partners in that location. Now, they just had a walkthrough of that facility 2 days ago, and ADAPT was there. O'Sullivan from ADAPT, Mr. O'Sullivan, pardon me, Dr. Ann Kellogg, who is the chief medical officer for Coast Community Health, St. Tim's, I don't want to forget everybody, Freedom. So in that, and Dr. Rush was there, because they were looking at the Rush building, formerly Rush Surgery Center. So I reached out to them and I said, well, would HBOC work there? And the representatives who are helping St. Tim's navigate this are Lauren and Jason Farmer, and you've heard their names because they're both on our Veterans Task Group for the Curry County Awareness and Prevention Council. And they immediately got back to me and said, it's piped for everything. The facility is set up that it could accommodate 2 beds, and everybody liked the idea. They could see the value in it. They're looking at more holistic types treatments. And as you may remember or may not know, Linda Maxon, who is the CEO of Coast Community Health, came to both of our VA healthcare summits, has always wanted to serve veterans. And according to this, the public health contract with the Oregon Health Authority is going to be given in part, or in total, I don't know, I'll have to get clarification on that, for Coast Community Health. So I'm saying the community partners are there. Sounds like there's a willingness there. The price of an HBOT can vary. You can get used, but if you are going to get something similar to what the provider in Grants Pass had, it's a Sechrist, and they can start at about $175,000 and go to about $125,000, and that's medical grade. Military grade, it's $250,000. Well, we aren't going to need the military grade, obviously, but those are some things for deep consideration. And what we're doing with our Access to Healthcare work group is we'll be talking about that in our upcoming meeting, which is the 28th of September. We will have, my understanding, in attendance, other chief medical officers, one from All Care and a representative from Advanced Health, and we've also invited the director over the Office of Community Care for VA Roseburg, and that's Rocky Phillips. and Dr. Kellogg has been invited, and we also have a veteran who has been involved with America's Mighty Warriors HBOC program, considering participating as well. So I encourage everybody to learn more if you have a chance to go to that meeting. It happens monthly, 11 a.m. to 12:30.
Connie, I thank you for your excitement and your dedication to this. I think definitely the three of us are in support of this. If you want us to write a letter, our attorney, Anthony Pope, would love to write that up. We'll sign it. Maybe we could even look at that Brookings letter to plagiarize a little bit. And thank you again for your time. And next presentation is Wreaths Across America.
Thank you.
In that, while they're getting ready, I just want to say I'm pretty familiar with Hyperbaric. Actually, back in the 80s, they were doing this with thoroughbred horses.
Okay.
And after
That's a
they
big
finished
one.
with the horses, they had a huge chamber. A bunch of jockeys would go sit in the Hyperbaric Chamber, and they'd sit in there for 20 or 30 minutes. And it was, I never went in it, but this has been technology that's been around since the 80s, and it works.
Welcome.
Yes, Commissioner Pash, Commissioner Herzog, Commissioner Pash, twice, and Commissioner Boyce. My name is Don
There's
Beeman.
only one patch up here now.
Yeah, that's true. I'm Don Bemis from Brookings. This is Deborah Salzman, and we're involved with the Wreaths Across America, of course. And could you call that up, please?
Eric's going to help you out.
Not sure where that one is. Yes, sir. You can take over. You the boss. There it is. All right.
All right, thank you. As you know, last year, we placed a wreath on every veteran's grave in Brookings. Commissioner Boyce was kind enough to visit with us down there. This year, we're going to do the same thing. We're on track to cover every veteran's grave. The good news is, or the better news is, Rogue River Cemetery has signed up as a location.
Okay.
And the VFW's Gold Beach is the sponsor group. So they have been signed up.
Thank you.
And so far, if you could scroll up, please. So far, they have 38, whoops, a little bit more up, please. Up, I'm sorry, down. They have 38 wreaths sponsored so far. And thanks to the donations of Gold Beach citizens and members, the first wreaths that were sponsored, we took donations from people from Gold Beach, and we submitted 5 wreaths to start with, which gave us 8 due to their 3 for 2 option on donations. But since then, we've got 30 more already. So the ceremony is December 18th in Brookings at 9 a.m.
Go Beach.
No, one at a time.
Sorry.
As it was last year. And the ceremony in Gold Beach is going to be at 1 p.m. So we can attend both of them. The VFW is going to be the honor guard again at Brookings, and they've also going to be the honor guard at Gold Beach. We're trying to make contact again with Dr. Carlson to sing for us. And in Brookings, the Oceanside Diner will be providing breakfast sandwiches like they did last year.
Okay.
What else do we need?
Okay, that's it on that.
Okay, that's it on that.
Okay, the other thing that we're doing right now is me and Don have purchased a fallen soldier statue to be presented at the cemetery. It's going to be here Tuesday, and then we're going to try to get a plaque with a dedication on the plaque, and it's going to read, "Let us remember and not forget, as every soldier kneels in prayer, knowing that many sacrificed their lives for their and everyone's freedom. May God give them everlasting peace." And then I'll have the dedication of who's involved in that. One of the things, too, and I'm going to pass this out to you, but I did want to read this to you. What is a veteran's wreath. Okay, the wreaths consist of 10 bouquets that comprise each veteran's wreath, which equals 10 special qualities that our veterans embody. The first bouquet, their faith in God. The second bouquet, their love for each other. The third bouquet, their strength, work ethic, and character. The fourth bouquet, their honesty and integrity. Their fifth bouquet, humility, selfishness, and modesty. The sixth, their ambitions and aspirations. Their seventh, optimism of America. Their eighth, their concern for their future. The ninth, their pride in their duties. The 10th, their hopes and dreams that didn't always come true, but left them with no regrets. The evergreen represents longevity and endurance. The red bow represents great sacrifice. The scent of the evergreens is purity and simplicity, and the circle of the wreath means eternity. So that is what a veteran's wreath is. And that is our goal, is to remember our veterans, honor them, and teach everybody about what our veterans are about. And I will give this to you. This is the Brookings, so each one of you will get this one too. That's it.
So, of course, everybody's invited. And again, Commissioner Boyce, if you'd like to join us there and say a few words. Our previous mayor, Jake Pieper, is going to be the MC again this year, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And it worked out very, very good last year. It was a very good ceremony. We really enjoyed doing
Incredible day. Incredible
Yes,
day.
it was.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Matthew, you got it?
For myself, yes, it's 541-661-0462.
I'm going to give you guys some extra applications for both Brookings and Gold Beach. So if you know anybody, you can hand them to them and give it to them.
Give those to JJ, and he's kind of our application guy, so.
And we'll be contacting the media as well, the paper and KPOD, and see if we can get another interview as well with them. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good to see you guys.
So I entertain now a motion to approve the consent agenda, A through F.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved in second, and all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Motion carries. Discussion/action items 6A, approval of Roadmaster. Richard, are you out there? Signature, I guess there he is.
And he just appears.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning. Curry County Roadmaster Richard Christensen. I kind of changed things up a little bit, quite a bit. Originally, I came here today to buy one mower max and a piece of heavy-duty equipment for the road department. And preparing for this meeting, I want to request that the board approve the road department buying two mower max pieces of equipment. I'd like to explain the change. And we've been having a hard time replacing our current New Holland equipment because it's a tractor that has a high center of gravity, and when it reaches out and mows, it wants to tip over. And there hasn't been anything on the market other than modified tractors that have aftermarket mowers on them. And our last purchase 4 years ago with the previous roadmaster, with the best equipment that he could find at the time, was this giant Caterpillar front loader, and that had this aftermarket mower put on it. And my team's scared to death to operate it because when you reach out, because of high center of gravity, it wants to tip over. And so it's not efficient and effective. And the current piece of equipment we're trying to get rid of or replace the New Holland, it's no longer efficient and effective. It has a lot of downtime, has a lot of hours on it. And so working with my team and the operators and mechanics, and also with this new manufacturer, this is mowing specific equipment. It's made just to mow. It has an extremely low center of gravity, does not want to tip over. And I've been working with Okanagan County Supervisor Gary George, and they purchased one earlier this year, and their staff loves it, and he highly recommends that we go that direction as well. And so mowing is a major part of what we do, and this kind of meets our long-term goals of being more efficient and effective at what we do, so we could open up other interagency work like we've been doing with chip seals. And so what we would like to do is sell our 4-year-old Caterpillar loader mower that's inefficient and ineffective and unsafe. And we believe that we could cover the price of this new specific mower, Max mower, with that sale. And so our goal would be, we would request the board to approve us to buy 2 mower Maxes at $350,000 instead of one at $195,000. And we could have them both shipped here at the same cost as shipping one. It's $10,500 for shipping from Florida here, and we could ship 2 for the price of one. So we could save that future expense of $10,500. And so we're looking at downsizing our fleet and doing a swap of a piece of equipment for these 2 mower Maxes.
Chris?
Well, explain to the board and everyone that's listening, you and I had a conversation about this, and to be clear, what he's going to do is sell off a loader that'll basically sell for more money than he's going to purchase this for, and so it really won't cost the county any money. But could you also explain your budget, how you've budgeted, and the Morrow Bridge, and not doing that this year, so this is well within your budget, so that everyone understands that we're not just out spending money willy-nilly for this stuff?
Yes, and so we're going to be $2 million under budget in our cap outlay this year as we were last year, and this is for the Morrow Bridge project. We've run into permitting issues with State Historic Preservation Office and our local tribes, because after this project started, we found out that this is actually, the bridge is located at a Native American historical site. And so the permitting has been difficult, and the project's been delayed now 2 years. And so we had expected to go out to bid last year, then we were expecting to go out to bid this June. Now we're still in the process of our memorandum of understanding with the tribes for inadvertent discovery plan in case we find any artifacts and or actual people. And so it's a really complicated project, so it's well within the Curry County Road Department budget to buy this equipment, and we will not need to ask for any alternate budgets or anything. And, you know, if you were to approve this equipment, they would arrive in about 3.5 months, so we'd expect them around Christmas, New Year's, and at the time this equipment would arrive, we would put in public auction the existing New Holland and the Caterpillar loader mower just in January of next year is what the goal is.
Any other questions for Rich?
And I just have one more statement, basically. For fire abatement, mowing is an essential part of our county, and this would help with that greatly. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, last meeting on the 1st, I had asked since our group had met on the American Rescue Plan Committee the day before, if we could just hold spending for a while. And, I mean, there's so many uncertainties, and you've heard me say this before, but I think it's stating the obvious. We don't know what the future is when it comes to rural counties all over Oregon. But we've got one shot with the ARP money. Both you and I, Commissioner Herzog, have put on the agenda, capping road fund reserves, and I think we have some basic agreements there. But I just feel like we're not guarding our resources well at all. I voted for almost everything you've ever recommended because it made total sense. So it's not an issue of road department. But when it comes to new equipment, when it comes to just last week, the 100,000 that the board approved, when I had to leave, I said, hey, can we just give that a little time? It's a lot of money. We did the 715,000 for the new dispatch thing, and I asked for 2 weeks to get a second opinion. As it turned out, the decision that this board made may have been the absolute best and only thing, wisest approach. But we're already nudging up against $1 million, and when that $4 million is gone over a 2 to 4 year period, it's gone. There's not going to be any more. And so I'm just encouraging the board to just slow down a little bit. It's the end of the season, so we've got, you mentioned delivery at Christmas, so we've got 2 or 3, 4 months that we could make a decision, presumably with good news coming. Commissioner Pash mentioned fire abatement. That's number one in my opinion, with what we deal with in a long-term risk that this county has. So anyway, I'm just going to take a hard line on spending, at least for a couple months, and I could spend more time. I think I've said enough as far as, hey, here's where I am with the spending in our county and the resources, and I don't see any hurry on spending anything right now. We need to just really, and I'll talk that later on with the new position, the grant writer that I'm going to propose again. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. I'd entertain a motion then.
I make a motion that we give approval to Roadmaster's signature authority to buy 2 more max booms.
I will second that. Discussion. The discussion I have is when I hear safety, I know that our road department is doing a fantastic job, and if we got equipment that's not safe, and I hear this, from a family level, my daughter working for the road department, those machines, I know she likes that she runs that New Holland, but she does not like that front loader, and because it is scary, and those pieces of equipment are big and they're heavy, and if you've ever been in a piece of equipment that wants to tip over, it's not good. So I will second that. Is there any more discussion or question?
And just to be clear, the one is definitely in your budget to purchase, and the second one is a trade-out. You're selling one machine to buy another, and that should cover the cost of the second machine.
It should be a wash, that's correct.
The only thing I would add, we're not going to be doing any more mowing, or very little until April, so that's 6 or 8 months. So it gives us sufficient time to carry on that evaluation. So I'll vote no. That will very likely be temporary, and that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
And just to that effect, I had something that was really compelling to me, but senior moment.
Well,
Rich,
I'd like to end it with something. It's like, I believe this purchase, and you approving this purchase, and I appreciate all the input, it meets all of our 5, strategic plan goals. And, I think the road department has a history of being a model department of good governance, hence, the road fund that was saved at $35 million. And we've always been very proactive, and in a model department, and so we're always looking for efficiencies and effectivenesses so we can be more cost effective. And so, and safety is a huge part of it, and also too is, having equipment that your team can use effectively out in the field, it makes them want to do more. And so with training and equipment, our maintenance programs have excelled, where we used to mow right away, which I agree, fire is a huge thing, but the other thing is vision, safety. In 2019, we had 2 FEMA storm events that really set my team behind, and we're still behind in mowing. And, we received plenty of customer complaints about vegetation in the right-of-way hanging out in the road or blocking around corners, and we're still behind in that work. And having equipment that's more efficient, that we could get that work done in a more of a timely manner, because we only have like 6 months a year to do this mowing of 225 miles of road because of fire season. When fire season hits, we stop our mowing. We shut it down because we don't want to start a forest fire. But also too is, we used to mow just the road shoulders, but now we mow the entire right-of-way. We mow an extra 5-8 feet in a lot of places, and that does decrease the chances of wildfires, having that additional mowing. So, what Commissioner Pash is saying is, does it make the county a little safer as for fires? Absolutely. But it really makes it safer for our drivers being able to see around corners, and it makes it a lot safer for my team to not have to worry about equipment tipping over. And so I really appreciate this consideration.
Well, just to add to that real quick, it finally came to me. This is a mowing machine. It's not a tractor adapted to be a mower. This is made to mow, so I think that's huge, and we live in a rainforest, so we need to be able to mow. So if there's no more questions, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries. And thank you, Rich. We'll move on to
Thank you.
6B Housing Committee update. Summer Madison. Hi. You want the mouse, Chris?
$12.42, please.
Here's some extra copies.
Perfect, thank you.
I said please.
Okay, good morning, Board of Commissioners, Summer Madison, Economic Development. Wanted to take just a couple of minutes to follow up on the conversation we had regarding the Housing Committee at the last meeting. The Housing Committee met last Friday and discussed concerns and ideas relative to the current structure of the Housing Committee. And although no decision or vote was moved forward, I prepared what I understood to represent the discussion and intended outcome. So this is what I've put together. What we initially proposed or brought to discussion at the last meeting includes all of this, but
Ms. Madison, can we enlarge that and make sure the public can see this a little better? Is there a way?
Yeah, the only thing I'll do is lose the entire document, which I'm happy to scroll down if that's what's easier.
Okay, either way.
So, let's see here. How's that?
Beautiful.
A little better? Okay. So what I really worked hard to do is include those positions on the Housing Committee that the Board of Commissioners initially deemed important. And as the needs and housing impacts become greater, we identified opportunity to expand on the membership of the current committee, which in my opinion, and it's my opinion only, that we considered dissolution of that committee only because of some of these issues down below. The advantages of decommissioning that is gives us the ability to have smaller work groups that bring specific focus and ability to accomplish more in less time. It provides the ability for every group to meet as often as desired. Give the teams the ability to function in an informal manner, creating more of an open forum. One of the concerns that was brought that I completely agree with is a database or repository of historical work already done, and relocating the housing resources to a more accessible place on the website, and establish a Google Drive link to the committee page specific to housing efforts so that updates and materials are manageable by the teams and not one specific staff person. So with that, what I did here, sorry, it doesn't work like my mouse. So with these advisory teams, what I tried to do was categorize them and break them up in small enough groups that there was room for everybody to have a voice and that things moved along quicker, and also giving them the ability to meet as often as they want without the formality of the current ordinance for the housing committee. A lot of the hang up with that is the formality in place, and I'm not sure that we can really afford that right now. So you'll see Team 1 kind of is representative of industry, and it's got workforce, real estate, contractor, developer. Team 2 is social and protected class, which represents veteran, homeless, and senior disability. And Team 3 is service nonprofit with recommendations for faith-based education and human services. I can imagine that each team would identify the need for addition to their team or more than one in education. And so I think that should be up to them to kind of identify. But what I feel that we need in order, so that those teams are experience and perspective focused, whereas this team up here is skill set and means focused. And so a PIO facilitator, I felt I could fill that position, although nobody's name has been attached to any of these at all. And in fact, I think that's unfair to consider that at the time. But the PIO and facilitator maintains, public information, put out on social media, on the website, distribution of materials, and making sure that everybody has the materials they need to be as efficient and prepared for conversations as possible. It sounds like the current housing committee submits things to the commissioners, or some of the members will submit something to the commissioners or to a fellow committee member, and then some of the committee members are left out of the loop, and that creates some frustration. So if we were able to have somebody to disseminate all of that and provide it all down in kind of some of these resources needed, that'd be great. You'll notice too the database and repository of historical work already done. Lauren Paulson made a great point at the meeting on Friday and said, hey, you guys, so much of this work's already been done. And coincidentally, the night before, I had gone through all of the drives I have access to and all of the commissioners' journals, and I pulled everything relative to housing. And he's right, there's a cash cow of information there. And so I was really excited because that's going to save somebody so much time. And this kind of falls in line with what I felt should be prepped for a housing development specialist onboarding prior to them actually coming on, save 6 months. So I agree with Lauren that that needs to be in place. Let's see, going back up here to these positions, this isn't anything formal. It's just what I feel I have identified will help us move forward as quick as possible. And you do see I did start identifying some things in this that were specific, like the COG. I feel like a few of those positions could be identified to participate from a COG that we've been talking about. And then also a really good point that Cora Rose brought up at the Housing Committee meeting. She is a committee member, and bringing up the initial ideas, she had said, well, it looks like you are wanting to remove the 3 at-large seats, and those are important because what's representative of South County may not be North. Although I don't disagree, I feel that those positions could be filled or designated by city. They have a better feel in their jurisdiction who's on top of that and who is, really making a case for housing. And I'm not saying that any at-large positions right now are not doing that. I'm just saying that's my perspective. So this is kind of what I've lined out, and I'm not sure what the schedule is for the next Housing Committee meeting. I intend to share this with them after this meeting with your notes if necessary, and leave that in the hands of the committee and you as the board.
Okay.
Any questions?
Floor is open, gentlemen. Go ahead, Court.
Well, maybe just a comment, but, first of all, I want to just mention the Housing Committee members. I mean, they've been faithful. Connie Hunter all the way to DeAllen. And they've been, I want to use the word fierce in a very positive way to try and overcome the IT issues, basically all the above. And so I know that this board wants to keep supporting them and encouraging them and appreciating them and not overlooking the volunteer spirit that they have offered. We originally, I think it was Commissioner Pash that took this on, and then we twisted your arm. Then we thought, okay, with my capacities with AOC, Association of Oregon Counties, that maybe I could contribute something and help on where there was just some loss of momentum. And, I think we all learned that it was, and then that's kind of why we twisted your arm. And so this one page is, excuse me, is very good. And I really like the smaller work group concept. Coming back with projects, we've talked about that quite a bit. When I mentioned AOC, the 3 biggest issues, we had our District 4 meeting the other day, and I think I'm chair, and that was a 4.5-hour meeting, and the 5 county of Josephine, Jackson, Coos Curry, Douglas. The 3 biggest issues on there from AOC that go way beyond their legislative work that they do, veterans, public safety, all the work they do for the counties. The 3 major issues were water, broadband, and housing, and not necessarily in any order. So they stand ready to help. Doesn't cost us any extra. Of course, they helped us get the combined Coos Curry housing coordinator, the $140,000 grant there. So I like your approach very much. I think your advantages are well articulated, and maybe it can move us forward. Again, nothing negative, but it's just been a struggle, and even to the point I think there's been a little bit of hard feelings, and yet there's been some very, very dedicated work going into it. So I hope that didn't take too long, Mr. Chair, but it's. I see this as a discussion, but if we need to take any action, I think we might be ready to do that. Thank you.
So, Summer, you're not saying dissolve the Housing Committee, are you?
If that's what it takes to bring forth a more informal environment in working on these things, that's the only reason why I say, decommission it. If you want to revisit the ordinance and maybe, curtail and change those details so that it makes it workable for the current Housing Committee, I think that's a great idea too. Whatever just gets us to the place where the technology and the Robert's Rules of Order and public meeting law, all of those things that a majority of this committee is not familiar with, and it's holding them back, and I don't want that. And I'll be honest with you, those public meeting laws, Robert's Rules of Order, And things like templates for committee meetings should all be established and provided. There should be a procedure for that for all committees, and it shouldn't have to be recreated at any time, but it should be available even as a model for some of our local nonprofits in what that looks like, and a requirement for each committee member to review and bring any questions if they have any concerns with public meeting law and how it relates to a committee, especially as formal as this. I honestly believe that's one of the barriers that is challenging for this group. And I've got to say, their hearts are in a great place. Each one of them is dynamic and invested, and I really appreciate that. It's not about, this, you know, like I've said, this is just about getting some housing developed, and let's do what we can to empower the current group or reorganize to an extent that we move forward on that.
So I guess my question would be for Connie, the chairman of the Housing Committee. Go ahead, come on up if you would, please, Connie. Are you in favor of a dissolvement and a reassigning or readjusting?
First of all, Connie Hunter, I just wanted to thank you for this great work. What we're going through is not uncommon. To start out with a bigger group and understand that you have to translate into work groups. That's almost a no-brainer. I think I brought it up in our second meeting, and there was some resistance. And Summer has done a fantastic job identifying some of the hurdles. I also think that the overall committee member, as it sits now, if they can participate as advisory, and I've always said this is an advisory capacity that we need to keep. If we went to, and we always knew that if you have an advisory situation, at some point you're going to have your strategic actions happening, your strategic planning, and so your steering action team is fantastic. However you want to put together an organizational chart, if it can somehow work in the context of the original committee being advisory, that would be great. If you do it this way, if you inverted that, say you have your advisory board and they meet quarterly, or they report quarterly to the steering action committee. You want that continual opportunity to have that experience and perspective given as time goes on. It is inhibiting from the standpoint of the different skill levels on that committee as it stands. And so this is really just saying advisory and skills and actions are two different things. And so to me, either way you go is okay. If you can keep the original intent of the committee and the structure of the committee, it means we didn't fail at anything. In other words, if we dissolve the committee, there is a perception that it failed. If you keep the committee and say, okay, this is just a restructure, which is normal course of development of organizations, it is not a bad thing. It is the way it happens all the time. So, and I appreciate the everything that our economic development Summer has done. She re-incentivized us, but also bringing that relationship to economic development is key. It's something that I felt was missing, and I kept saying, if we have chosen workforce housing as our objective, then it leaves other things out there, but it also means we're dealing with economic development. So that was a good, smart move. Thank you.
Okay.
Just real quick, I might have assumed incorrectly that the advisory teams were going to be from the existing committee. Was there break?
That's basically what's identified in those positions, because the experience that those folks bring may not necessarily bring the skill set, but they know what's needed, and they can tell the action team, you know, this is what's needed, and then they will make it happen.
Okay.
Or at least make recommendations as such.
Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Comment?
I think, I'd like to say this, one of the best things this board, in my tenure, has done is bring economic development back to our county. And Summer, great job on this. And to be able to revamp or, put this together and have some of the current committee members to join the advisory teams, I think was very well done. Because it keeps that experience in the committees, for the steering committee to be able to look at. I love having, the skill set on top the way it is, having experts in those fields, having planning and building people that are developing specials and finance officers and all that. That's the way to get things done. And I really applaud you for doing this. This is great work.
Thank you.
Speaking of planning, I saw a planner walk in the door. Did she come in to just view such a good meeting, or did she have a question or comment?
Thanks, Commissioner Herzog. I just have a brief comment. I would just suggest that the situation with housing seems to be turning around, so to speak, and I would just recommend that you put the discussion on hold about the role of the committee and how to reformulate a committee that might be consistent with the work that's currently happening in the background. That's all.
Time out.
Yeah.
Just for the public, and well, my interest too, when you say things are turning around, give a little more detail on that if you could.
We have literally several private sector folks that have come forward, and some have identified specific pieces of property that they would like to have help with as far as development of workforce housing in particular. So we've been working with those folks and at the same time working with them, keeping their concerns confidential as we move forward and try to work some of these issues out to see if we can get something going.
Thank you very much.
So Connie, before you step away, so your recommendation the county planner would be to not make any recommendation to the board or to the housing committee right now?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just see how things work out.
Okay. So she's putting the onus on us, gentlemen, that good things are happening, it sounds like, and that's what we all want. That's the end game, right? The end goal. So what do we want to do?
Well, we had a good discussion, in my view, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, and so I don't think we need to do anything today other than I think we had unanimous support of this concept, at least if it's to be put off for a while, delayed. That's my interpretation.
Okay. Chris,
I think we've already got the housing committee formed. I don't know if revamping it is going to do any damage. I think putting ideas on the table are always a good thing. Again, it's just it's recommendations to us on what to do. I don't know as delaying it another meeting or two to see how things kind of play out in the very near future is a bad thing, but I know one thing: we need workforce housing, and we need to deal with some of the low-income housing quicker than much sooner than later. So I would like to see this move forward. If this board wants to delay a meeting or two, and to see how things play out in other areas, as Ms. Crockett's just explained, I don't have a problem with that, but I would like to see this move forward.
I'm in agreement with that, but I'm not in agreement with today, moving forward today on that, on this housing committee update, and just give this a month or two. So we're all in agreement?
Same here.
Okay. So next item, I don't think you're going anywhere, Summer. is Transient Lodging Tax Review Committee, Summer Mats, and Economic Development Coordinator.
Thank you. So I want to backtrack a little bit on the last item. In the last meeting, I had shared with you my commitment to bring forth to this meeting a housing development specialist job description sourced from existing descriptions presented to this commission over the past few years with the intent to reflect current needs as outlined in the Curry County Housing Emergency Declaration. Commissioner Boyce thankfully took the lead on that with submitting a draft housing development specialist job description for this meeting today. So I wanted to thank him for taking that lead, and just a note that the job descriptions that I was going to bring forth in that work are attached to the packets that I gave you. And I hope that those aid in solidifying this work and expedite progressive deliverables by the Board of Commissioners. That is my very diligent intent to maintain open, transparent conversations in the work being done. Been working with the Housing Committee for over a month, and even with what I have been privy to in some of the housing developments, the Housing Committee probably to a certain extent needs to know or be aware that there are things happening behind the scenes that could impact their direction. Okay, on to my next item. In regards to the Transient Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, Review Committee, my apologies. So in 2019, Ordinance 1902 called for the establishment of a review committee of TLT programming to oversee accountability of the program and other responsibilities as outlined in the attached excerpt. This committee would consist of an accountant, an attorney, a TLT collector, not an intermediary, but a collector, and 2 persons appointed by the board. It's not very specific what those 2 persons would represent, industry or what have you. So, I did in this excerpt just kind of outline everything relative to the review committee that you want to take into consideration. One of the things that we haven't done, because we don't have the review committee, is have that committee review our forms and our processes. And so I think that's important to maintain transparency. And they also act somewhat as a planning commission where they hear appeals and things like that with decisions that have been made by the TLT administrator. So just kind of streamlining that process and making sure we're accountable to what we committed to in writing, I think is important. And whatever I can do to help promote that or publish that need, help create that, facilitate. I just wanted it to be known that it's not done and it needs to be.
Chris?
Summer, if you could, just kind of a side question to the TLT. How efficient do you believe that the TLT is being collected?
Well, that is Miranda Plagge's responsibility. She is the official TLT administrator, and she does a great job. I can tell you that when doing cost accounting of what it costs our department to do that and what the state's offered historically, we save so much, and over 80%, 83, I think. And then, I don't ever receive complaints about Miranda's work in that, and she takes pride in that. And if something's not working right, we figure it out and make the process better. But I would certainly ask the TLT collectors if they have some insight. And in fact, I'm happy to send them an email and just gauge, hey, how is this working for you? you know.
And that was more my question, more, not so much Miranda, because I believe Miranda's doing a great job.
Yeah.
It was more, you know, the TLT collectors and their pushback from people in the county is what my point.
You know, I think, you know, a few years ago, it was very well known that Curry County didn't have a TLT program in place and that our property taxes are really low. So it's been a vision and a goal for people, you know, over time to move here and have it cost less for them to live and maybe run a business. But overall, it's minimal. And I think most importantly, we have a Tourism and Promotions Committee meeting scheduled for Monday the 20th. And they've been consistent in the work that they're bringing, and a lot of cool things happening right now. And so when we see returns on the investment of those TLT funds in the community, you know, they have a tendency to get pretty excited, and so do the TLT collectors.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other question?
Just, Mr. Chair, how do we proceed to follow through? With this responsibility?
Hi, Brett.
Hello. So the accounting staff has been looking into a Gazelle upgrade recently, and to just really discuss if that upgrade would allow us to do everything we need to do. As many of you probably already know, we're several years behind on upgrades. I think we're about 8 versions behind, and that's all due to the server not being able to handle the server just can't handle the Gazelle program the way it is right now, and so that has led to a lot of decrease some decrease in functionality. So as we've met with Gazelle, we've determined that it will restore all that functionality. We'll be able to run all the reports that are needed, not have to contact Gazelle for it, certain reports that are needed. It will, and which then we incur extra fees there. That the payroll setup will eliminate the need for so many of the manual calculations that we currently have. And also this upgrade would be an upgrade to the cloud, their cloud version, which eliminates the need for the server, for maintenance on the server. Gazelle will then be in charge of all the backups, all the upgrades will be free. Additionally, to all of this, there's a couple new pieces that are pretty exciting to me. There's a document management system that will eliminate all the need that we have for all the paper filing, the time it takes there, monthly, weekly, yearly, as well as there's a piece that will allow employees to access time cards, pay stubs, W-2 forms, all that stuff, anytime they need to, all year round, and eliminate the need for Julie to print and distribute those every couple of weeks. So there's a lot of time-saving pieces that come along with this. Gazelle is obviously what we are currently on. We have been using it. We know it does work. We just need to upgrade to get back to the point where we have full functionality of this program. Last thing I want to say about it is this is a budgeted item. It was approved the money was approved in the budget, last budget cycle, and it is considerably less than the accounting program that we were going to go to
OpenGov
earlier. OpenGov, yeah. So
Dirty word.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'd ask the board to approve this expenditure and so that we can move forward with efficiencies and functionality.
As soon as we do that, timing is kind of the essence, and
Yeah, and the sooner, and there really is no reason to delay. It's what's, I don't know, I can't think of a reason to delay it. It's a small increase in cost to what we're paying now, but again, it allows us full functionality of the system rather than having to go to Gazelle every year and say, hey, we need help printing W-2s and paying them to help us. And then we get a lot more, like I talked about, some of those pieces, the document management pieces, and right now we're paying for electronic time cards, but we can't use it because the server we have doesn't handle that. So that allows us to have a lot of time savings there instead of accounting, entering in all that data for all the time cards. Each individual is filling out the electronic time card, and again, it just relates to a lot of cost savings on the manual labor part of the data entry piece of it. So,
Gord, I know you had a question on this, so is there anything that could be answered right now that would?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Ricker was in my office yesterday, and I think I was able to ask some pretty good questions. I think he had some pretty good answers, and I appreciate his enthusiasm. Now, basically, before he got here, it is a little bit reminiscent of the OpenGov enthusiasm and all it could do. And as you know, we lost, probably going to lose around close to $200,000 on that. And so, you know, and I appreciate that you brought up the time frame here that we're looking at. You know, originally we hired a professional, Summer Sears, and her expertise was Gazelle. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the transition to potentially Gazelle to OpenGov and all of our employees and what have you, are we going to need, just one quick question, Director Rickard, are we going to need any other professional help in this as we move forward? You're pretty confident there. Okay, good. So you mentioned what's the need, or why would we delay it today? The only thing I expressed at the beginning of our meeting and on this subject was just additional time to read these 7 pages. And to be really responsible, I should read it 2 or 3 times to make sure that this is good. I don't see how 3 weeks is going to harm. We need to be on our toes here, and again, it's just like when we talked the money going out. How can we slow that down? And is there a way here that we can be extra responsible and careful, cautious, all of the above? So I'd be willing to work on this with the 29th. We mentioned the Council Pope, or the 6th of October. But I need time. I really want to make sure that this is the best thing for the county and our entire financial department. So I don't want to make a decision today.
Chris?
This is something, as Director Rickard has already explained, this is already an already budgeted item. From a budgeting standpoint, there's no change in the general ledger on this. It's a budgeted item, and I actually think that it's going to be less than what is budgeted. So by getting this system, it'll actually save the county money. Yes, OpenGov turned out to be a catastrophe, as noted, and I will admit to that. It was a mess. But from what I'm looking at on this, it's $1,775 a month, so about $21,000 a year.
And that's,
And you'll have full access to everything. Like you just said, you're not going to have to pay for, them doing our reports. You're not going to have to pay for W-2s and all that. You'll have all full access to that. The server will be happy because this will be in the cloud, whatever that is. And so that'll make IT a little happier, take some pressure off our server. And for me, again, yes, OpenGov was a catastrophe, but we need to update our software. And this is something that has been necessary for this county for years, and I'd like to see it happen sooner than later.
and just to clarify, it's $1,775 for the month for the hosted version of the accounting software. Some of those other pieces I mentioned are a small addition. It's all in the packet, extra $181 plus a one-time $8,000 setup charge for it. One reason to get it going now and not delay 3 months, if we can get it going now, some of those functionalities that we have lost through not upgrading Gazelle as needed. Julie has some payroll reports that need to go out every quarter. Without upgrading, then we're left contacting Gazelle, spending more money to have them help us to do whatever she needs to do to get those done, because she can't do it on her own with the version of Gazelle that we have. So that would be one reason to not delay it. And if it's fees for that.
Okay.
I'll make
Good, just a second. Dave Barnes had a question. County Treasurer.
I didn't really have a question. I'm Dave Barnes. I'm the county treasurer. I'm the other person who uses Gazelle. And I would urge this board to go ahead and move forward with this post haste. There's no reason to delay this anymore. Gazelle is an established company. The county's been using them for many, many years. OpenGov, we found out late in the process that we were beta testers for them. So,
What was that last you said? I'm sorry.
We found out late in the process from OpenGov that we were beta testing.
Yes.
Their county financial software for them. They did not have a program that was ready for us to use. Gazelle does. And we spent 18 months or so working on the whole OpenGov project, and it turned out to be a failure. We really need to get this up and running, get us up to date, start using new software for things. It'll help me in my office and what I'm doing. It'll help the accounting department, and I'd urge this board to move forward and approve this today. Thank you.
Put us behind the 8 ball and with Gazelle, and we need to, I've talked to Brad about, just getting monthly financial, a one-page printout of what's, expenditures and what we're receiving, and we can do that with this, we'll be up to speed with our old software and Gazelle, and so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the software upgrade for the finance director as requested by our finance director, Brad Rickard.
I'll second that motion. Any other question or comments?
Just, we seem to be in a hurry. 2 weeks is not going to be anything to derail our responsibility. It may go the other way where we're not fulfilling our responsibility. I just got this information yesterday, and so I'm just appalled that it's always sign the check now. And I really have a strong disagreement with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other question or comment? Hearing none. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
2-1. Thanks, Brad. Curry County Grant Writer, COVID Recovery Community Assistant Housing Development Specialist, Commissioner Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I'll just make this quick. I guess it's no secret that I've been pushing for a grant writer for quite some time. And I failed with the last board and this board. Then in addition to that, we had a lot of enthusiasm with our housing committee for a housing development specialist. Now, after hearing Director Crockett earlier in this meeting, you know, and I suspected that there were some very good things happening. I mean, her and her staff down there are just swamped, and of course that's very good news, and I think it goes without saying we want it to last, hope it'll last. But we still have a long way to go. The COVID recovery part of it, I mean, you could develop any job you want that could be a professional with the right skills that could benefit the county. There's no question in my mind that we've lost money on grant opportunities, and we just haven't done our job there. And it's been probably one of the biggest sources of disappointment for me because it's so basic and so direct that, yeah, we've lost a year, maybe 2 years. The reason I bring up, or kind of meshed in there, and you could come up with any title you want, this was a very basic draft of what that one person could be for this county in terms of helping us overcome the COVID, the entire issue there. You know, I think we had $800,000 roughly that we were reimbursed for direct, and I might have that incorrect. I asked Director Rickert yesterday, and he was going to get that information for me, for us. I asked for all of us. But now that $800,000 just evaporated, and I don't have a good accounting of that, and I feel irresponsible because I'm not saying it was misappropriated or anything like that. But part of our job is to follow every dime. We talk about that, but frankly, I don't think we're following through with that. So the COVID recovery, community assistant, the housing development specialist, and the grant writer. Or maybe it's just one, or maybe it's add a fourth one. Do we have the office space? Can we justify a contract position on, you know, a professional to help us move forward, which will open up good attention for this county and our citizens when it comes to being proactive, trying to solve our own problems, trying to understand the issues that we're dealing with, and good communication to the people we represent. So what I'm asking the board today, if you wanted to simplify this, is simply, can we pursue this a little bit further and maybe have some efforts with Mr. Rickert, with Ms. Madison, other elected officials, who basically say, yeah, this COVID recovery coordinator, this position here for housing specialist, let's go to the next step. Or do we just want to say no again, and I'll come back in 2 or 3 months probably and try again because I see it as that critically important. So there you have it enough for today. Perhaps the emphasis should be on grant writing. I mean, and another example of that where I wanted to spend $1,500 for a Curry Forestry Department. That was 3 months ago now. We very well could have lost, if in fact we wanted to harvest that 40 acres of timber between the Sixes and the Elk River. You know, I agreed we needed a second opinion. That could have came. But now it's sat there for 3 months minimum. And now the log market's down. It's just heartbreaking to me to not be really active, and I just needed $1,500 to get the very best possible information on that 40 acres of timber. And so those are just areas that I think this board could be much more aggressive, much more responsible. That's just my opinion. But we lose. And it's been a real head scratcher to me. So, Mr. Chair, thank you for that extra time. That's all I have.
I got a question on grant writing. Are there grant writers out there that write on a commission, or Got some hands up. Dave, Connie, take your,
Most grants, I'm David Barnes again, I don't know if Connie's going to agree with me or not, but most of the grants that I've seen, you're not allowed to deduct the cost of the writer from the grant
I gotcha.
itself. You can't. Yeah, it just doesn't work that way.
doesn't work that way.
But
Okay.
they do allow you to deduct the administrative fees, correct?
Administrative fees, but that's administering the grant, that's not
Not
writing.
writing it, right.
Right, that's for somebody to come in and compile all of the financial information, compile the project information. We used to call them a principal investigator when I was at the university. They're the person who, after the grant is written, they're the ones who are making sure that the tenets of the grant are followed through on.
And I do know grant writers that work and administer the grants after they're received. In other words, they write the grant, and then after they're received, then they administer them, and they take
To trainings that Julie Schmelzer went to. And I would, every Thursday, send out potential funding. I would learn about all of the projects across the board in this county and go and literally find the money to get that grant written. And there were so many times that I put grants forward that could have been done that without a grant writer, didn't
You got a
happen.
resume with you?
Pardon me?
Do you have your resume? We might get this solved right here,
I'm
right
not
now.
trying to, I'll share you information, and I put one together for the Housing Committee because they want to know a little bit more about our skill set, and they were kind of shocked. But for example, you know, one of the things that I sent to Gary Milliman, he wrote as a grant for, you know, this or that. And so it's just being aware, sharing that information, and not necessarily having to write every single grant, but making sure that those people, that department or that project knows where the money could come from, and you pencil it out as a budget. Could you consider putting a list together that says, these are where you can go for the money, and this is where somebody that has grant writing experience and development experience can tell you, you know what, you're probably only about 50% going to get that grant. And so you have to figure out, okay, where do I want to be? So if I don't write a grant generally, unless I can have in my head that I pencil it out that 80% chance they're going to get that grant. That's why I have a good average. So
Okay.
Just want to let the board know the entire county is black right now.
Okay.
They don't know why we're on generator power. So if the generator goes out, our meeting's over. But everything is out.
I could probably tell you in a minute.
While you're looking at it, Commissioner, may I?
Yeah.
I don't know if you were here, I can't remember, but two or three different times I brought up or addressed the board with Park Resources, who does a lot of work for Port Orford, Port of Port Orford, come highly recommended. Also from former city administrator Milliman. Another one I mentioned to the board was Sequoia Consulting. They had tremendous recommendations from several counties. One in particular said, hey, they already got us $1 million on just their first try. I don't remember now what it was, what the $1 million was for. But that was a year ago. So if this board would have acted, where would we be right now? That's the frustrating thing for me. So to spend $5,000, send a bunch of people to college, maybe that's a good approach. I think we should do both. And I think we, again, should be really vigorous on trying to figure this out because we've lost a lot of money and it wasn't necessary. Thank you.
So, board, do we want to, where do you want to, Julie, did you have anything you wanted to add, or do you just come to say aye? Just listening. Okay. Chet, you got an update?
I just wanted to give you guys, Chet Brewer, facilities maintenance. Power is down, as I am understanding it, from the port back into part of town. We are on generator power now. I would suggest or ask you guys to let everybody know, and/or we're trying to go to every department and let them know if you got anything on the computer. If you can, before we go to lunch, I'd probably shut it down because I can't guarantee. IT is on it. They're aware of it. Coos Curry's aware of it. They're trying to find out where the problem is.
Okay.
Can't give us an ETA.
No, I thought you said the whole county was down, just this
Sorry,
area.
I meant our facility when I said county, the campus, but as I understand it, it is still from the port and somewhere here in the center of town that is officially out that I've been told.
Okay.
Okay.
Just letting you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, to answer your question, so we can get off of this agenda item, can we just pursue a portion of this, come back to the board with something additional? Brenda Starbird was just exceptional on this, but obviously, on a first try, you want to let everybody know it's a rough draft, and there's considerable work that should be done additionally.
Okay.
And so if the board wants to pursue this a little bit further, then I would bring something back on October 6th.
I'm okay with that.
Is that for just the grant writer or all this?
Leave the door open, if you would, please.
I'm okay with that.
All right? Okay.
Julie Swift, payroll and HR, we keep talking about not wanting to spend money. How is this position going to be funded?
That's a good question.
You know, I could speak to that in a couple different ways, but I'm going to forego. If it's easy to justify something that will produce income, in my opinion.
Okay, moving on to Curry County, Coos Curry Douglas Business Development Letter of Support. Item 6.
The letter speaks for itself, board, if you got a chance to review this. It's a simple support letter. The other two counties, Coos and Douglas, have already sent their letter for the Rural Opportunity Initiative Program grant. This is on the agenda last week, but last meeting, but we didn't quite get to it.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we send this letter out on the full county stationery in support of the ROI program grant.
And you made a motion?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, there's a motion. Do I hear a second? So I have got to admit, I thought I had read this, but I haven't. So maybe could we bring this up? I could read it during lunch, and I haven't read this letter somehow.
Fair
I
enough.
apologize, and
Well, a minute, I'll take it over here.
so would you be okay with bringing that up after lunch? We got 5 minutes till noon.
Yes.
And trying to, yep, that'd be good. Okay, so let's move to G, matter of declaring a local drought emergency with Curry County and requesting a governor's declaration of state of emergency.
This sets the county up for whatever the future might bring when it comes to low rainfall, when it comes to dry conditions, when it comes to increased fire level issues. You see in the packet, the Board of Commissioners did it in 2014, which I remember that was a pretty dry year. It basically is saying to the state, kind of like the fire situation, we don't have enough of our own resources to deal with any major issues. And so we are setting and positioning the county up for the best possible success should we enter into another year, 2, 5, whatever it might be for likely, I'm going to say, I hate to say it, but likely drought conditions. You mentioned the Chetco River and what, just, spending time there and what you've learned and how that's amended over the years. Quite the disappointment. So I'm asking the board to follow through with this, and it just helps the county in a lot of different ways. Lets the state know where we are.
It looks like we've done this in the past.
That's correct.
Yeah. So is it a yearly thing or every other year?
Depends on the conditions.
Okay, I got you.
So yeah, the last time was 2014.
Okay. Chris?
Well, for me, I don't know if we need to declare a state of emergency on this. I mean, is there a drought condition? Yes, there is. In some parts, there are dry parts, but I got to tell you, the 7 or so inches of rain that we got in June, I've still got standing water in some of my creek beds, and I've never seen that on my ranch at this time of year.
Yeah.
I've never seen standing water in my creek beds still. We are due to get between 1 and 3 inches of rain between Friday and Sunday in the county. I know Saturday for sure they're calling for an inch to an inch and a half of rain. So I think declaring states of emergency are, would I like to bring this back if we don't get rain and it continues to get worse? Absolutely. But I think declaring a state of emergency right now, when we may get 2 or 3 inches of rain over the weekend through the whole county, and what I see in the current state of our county, I mean, there's still green grass everywhere. I just don't see I know in eastern Oregon, Klamath Falls, we've got friends there. It's absolutely bone dry. But I think Curry County has been lucky this past year. We've got an anomaly of 7 or 8 inches of rain in the middle of summer, which I don't ever recall seeing here. So I think that greatly helped us, and I'm glad Commissioner Boyce is always worried and thinking about this. I just think it's premature at this point to declare a state of emergency. I just think that those 3 words are important, and when we do it, it needs to be an actual state of emergency.
So do we have a county road water master?
That would be in Josephine County. Used to be in Coos County.
Can we reach out to him and ask him what he thinks about our, I know that Harbor's getting a little
We don't need to spend any more time on it. Actually, we've got people out there whose wells are completely dry in this county. We've got agricultural issues, so I don't understand what we would gain by delaying this. Just simply telling the state that, we understand where we are, and this is, you can always back out of it if we get this tremendous amount of rain, but we have one weekend of rain isn't gonna give me a lot of confidence.
And I agree with that. I don't think a weekend of rain is going to help. But
it does help.
It's not going to cure the problem. It will help, but it's not going to cure the problem.
So what do we gain by delaying?
I personally don't think it's a state of emergency, Commissioner. That's all.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. If Commissioner Herzog does, then you get a 2-to-1 vote, and we do it.
Well, I do know that Harbor is experiencing some salt. You guys aren't in Harbor? No.
Rainwater.
Yeah, those super high tides, low Chetco River, and their intake is, way lower than the Brookings City. But
it's terrible.
That's every year. It seems like lately, in the last.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Since 2014. Thank you.
So and Summer and I were talking about that earlier this week, that, we got a lot of elderly folks in the Harbor Bench, and that can't get, because I think the Harbor Water District at the fire hall, Harbor Water, they'll have cases of water you can come and get, but there's people who, can't actually grab a case of water, elderly folks. So
if we set this up in September of 2021, and we have a chance down the road with the state and funding and the whole water issue which, thanks for bringing up the solemnization issue for the poor people in Harbor. My gosh, I mean, I'll never forget one lady one time told me she even has to give her birds bottled water. So this sets the county in a very good position, and it sends the notice to the state that we understand that we're taking a proactive approach here in what we have to do.
I know the governor doesn't like me, but I'll second this motion. Any other questions? Comment? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries 2-1. So 12:01, we're going to break for lunch. Be back here at 1 o'clock, please. Thank you. Back to Curry County Commissioner meeting,
Isn't it nap time now?
September 15th. I think somebody's taking a nap because there's nobody here, and that's okay, in person. So we left and we were discussing drought emergency. So I was shown a email, or a picture in an email, that Oregon, and they have it separated in different, they have severe, moderate, and Curry County is in a severe drought. So if that helps, I don't know if you go to your email, you'll see a picture. Well, you don't have your computer, Chris.
No, I don't,
You
sir.
you could look at mine.
So I
Kurt-
feel comfortable. You guys voted, so I feel comfortable with that. I'm just.
So we did vote?
Yes, we did.
You already voted, yeah.
That's okay, you did research. That's, just to be reminded, Curry
Okay.
County is in a severe
drought.
That's
Curry,
a great chart.
Josephine, Jackson is in a extreme drought. Anyway, so let's go back to, if we all could, to, hi Carrie. Hi. To the agenda item. So that letter, I read that letter, Commissioner Boyce, and so I think you had a motion, right?
Yes.
And so, and you didn't second it?
On what?
That letter for the Rural Opportunity Initiative?
Right, no, I didn't.
So I'll second that. Any other question or comment on that?
No, just thanks for the follow-up.
And so I will ask for all in favor say yes?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. That's good. So we are at,
That was on the Douglas business thing, right?
yeah, that was on Curry County, a matter of declaring a drought was the last one. So we're up to speed.
No, but I'm saying the vote we just made was on F.
Yep.
The Douglas County
Sure.
Business Development Letter, okay.
That's right. So we are on H,
That's Safety
Safety
Committee.
Committee, Commissioner Pash. Yes, go.
Thanks. Well, we've got some things going on here with our Safety Committee. We've had several resignations again last week. Carrie, if you would step up to the microphone, please. Carrie is one that was the chair of the Safety Committee, and she is resigning as well. And a lot of it has to do with getting support from all departments and the commissioners. For me, it's just a matter of what's mandated by the state. And this is something that is mandated by the state. OSHA requires us to have this. And I know, it may have been put on the back shelf over the past years, but Carrie's done a lot of work on this in the last or in the last year or so, I know. And we've got some things that we're facing, If we don't have our safety committee, and I think Carrie will speak to this in a minute, but a lot of the things that can happen is our mod rates and our insurance can go way up. She showed me a graph last week of the mod rates and where they could be, and I'll let her speak to that. But I just want to let this board know how important it is that we have a safety committee, and without departments supporting that, as well as the board, it's going to be very difficult to make this happen. I guess, we could even reach out and say it's mandated that every department have somebody on the safety committee. And that, I don't know that we need to take that step right now. I think we have adequate numbers of people on the safety committee, but that's how important it is that people are on this committee. And I know we've talked about it a month or so ago, but since then, I guess some things have changed. And again, I just want to make sure that we're all fully aware of what's going on and the necessity of this. So, Carrie, if you would, I'd let you speak some.
Okay. Carrie Dexter, accounting and payroll clerk here at this moment. I'll try my best to, what I will say, stumble through this because I'm going to go out on a limb. All of you read my resignation letter, so I'm not going to go in great detail about that. But if you have not read the resignation letter, feel free to please go ahead and let me know. That would make a big impact on probably what I would say here today. But in the letter as chair, I did express how much work I have put into it. I've been here with SAFE personally, as you all know, the time that has went into it. If you do a safety committee right and you have an active chair and vice chair who delve into it to really make it more than a committee, but you can almost say just a program within the county. There's a lot of areas that could save money. There's a lot of things we could do with prevention. Of course, we try to keep our work comp claims down, so that's what we work on for prevention, especially outside the sheriff's department, because they deal with a lot of issues they can't foresee. One of the examples I gave to Commissioner Pash was, for examples, our mod rates. So every county starts off with a 1.0 mod rate. You go up, you go down. It depends on your claims, the expense and length of them. 2016, we were 0.88. 2017, 0.79. 2018, we dipped to 0.66, which was great. 2019, 0.71. 2020, 0.79. 2021, 0.97. That's the turning point when Shelley and I were in here speaking, that the fees or the premium we will pay next year is already set in stone. You're on a 3-year revolving schedule, and you can't help what's already been done, but you can help the future possibly. 2022, we're going to bump up to a potential, this is an estimate from our underwriters, which I spoke to yesterday and today with our insurance, to a 1.35, which increases our rates approximately from about $112,000, which was paid this year, to $138,000 when we pay it for next year. And if we hopefully do not see us stay steady or reduce that, you can go into the next tier. We are now in the non-voluntary tier, and we've moved into the risk tier. So that's some kind of what I let Pash know, that the committee tries to look at this as a whole. We try to keep an eye on it. We try to have education. There's a lot of things we had coming on board in the future. But, and like I said, I'll speak very briefly to my resignation because I'd rather not go into it here in this setting. But in my opinion, if all the work that I've done over the past almost a year is not going to be taken into account seriously, especially with reporting a safety concern, when it's in our policies, it's expected that the board and the county work with the expertise of the safety committee, then it's not going to go anywhere. And you can have a committee of 50 people, but it's not going to make a difference. And so I don't know if Mr. Pash would like to elaborate on that, but that's overall what my resignation stated. So I do hope in the future that can be expanded on, but I also do hope in the future that every member on the committee does not feel in any way that they'll be retaliated against for doing the right thing, which is also a reason I no longer serve.
One of the things on here that we talked about, to walk through and do safety inspections, could that table leg be straight or something like that? Those things, those are the small things. But the committee asked me to come up with something. I came up with a plagiarized 17-page document. I think I sent it to the board about a month ago of some policies and safety rules that we can come up with and add into the jacket of every employee here, that they review these things possibly. And I know Ms. Swift has said that they have to do some of this now, but to understand our safety policies and actually have to sign off on that they read and understand them. And again, some continuing education, videos from OSHA or whoever, whoever our best friends are in government. to continue on with that. But this is something, again, that, I know it's kind of been taken lightly, but I think we need to be more serious about this. As we know, we had an incident in the jail several years ago, and, could it have been prevented? I don't know, but I know that it was found against us, and we settled a big claim on that. And these are things that, no blame to anyone, but, if we had some of these policies in place, maybe someone would have understood something. I'm just wanting to make sure that we dot all the I's and cross all the T's. We've got some people from Salem now that that have talked to Carrie, and I don't recall the lady's name.
Shelley Nasby.
That's the woman. She's telling us that we have to get through with some of this stuff, or we're going to have some problems. So I'd like to find a way that we can move forward with this and get a lot of the safety issues taken care of.
Well, I agree, and I thank you that you did serve and you did a fantastic job. I'm sad that you did resign, but we still have a safety committee, right? Overall, that is functional. They had a meeting. Do we have a chair?
No.
No chair?
No vice chair?
I want it to be, personally, I want it to be a volunteer thing. I think I don't want to have to mandate departments, and
I agree.
I want it to be volunteer.
I would agree. And what I stated to Mr. Pash was that at this point, you do have enough members for a functioning committee. They do need to hold an election. It's one time per year that a vice chair and chair are supposed to be held at election. The committee members can re-elect the same chair and vice chair, or they can elect a new one. So at this time, interim, they'll need to go ahead and do that. I was just asked here today to kind of speak to some of that. So, the committee can be made as beneficial and useful and as big as you want it to be. There's examples of other counties where it's made a huge impact. One of the counties I was working with is Coos. Their safety committee has really built themselves up. It took a lot of work. Someone coming into this position as chair, it would probably take them about a year to learn it, or 9 months to a year if they really wanted to. So you need a volunteer who's going to put in that time. It's volunteer, so it's within their normal duties of their job to make time for that. So it's hard here to do so. So, I don't have any recommendations for the board here today. I'm just here to explain. I hope in the future that it can go forward without having an actual safety officer here. It's not a lot of choice, but it is something that's mandated. So I do hope that it goes in a different direction so we don't lose more members, because you will be back here talking about it then.
Just a second. So is that one lady still involved that has, I was at a safety committee way back when it first started, and then she spoke at this meeting one time. So
Shelley Nasby is our senior safety risk consultant for SAFE in the southern western Oregon region, whose personal contact that I go through for any questions or guidelines that we should go by, because as an employer, we should be looking at SAFE and OSHA guidelines as we do things. It's a little bit separate than if you were just in a contracting business. They have separate rules than employees would here. So she's just a contact that I go through, because it's huge to learn any part of SAFE. You need to go through a contact, because you would never learn it if it's not your job and you're not employed with the state of Oregon. Not everything. There's always something to learn. So she's our main point of contact. And like I said before, Shelley as well is a great resource, because she is not in any way here to, even if she came and did a walkthrough, to penalize the county. She's only here to help.
Yeah, she seemed like it. Chris?
Well, here's something else that I kicked around several months ago, and it might be something for this board to look at, is having a safety officer. We've got a code enforcement officer that's part-time, perhaps turning, because they understand codes and they understand a lot of the law that functions and safety, and putting them possibly even through some classes on this, but taking that half-time code enforcement officer and turning that position into a full-time job, and 0.5 of his job is a safety officer for the county. A lot of counties, I know big counties all have safety officers that work in them, and I don't know that we could find full-time for one, but I'm sure we could find.
Pardon me with that, Commissioner, but I do believe that our code enforcement officer is full-time. I believe he's just split between two departments. They are both full-time. They're just split.
I know we have a full-time, I'm saying we also have a part-time one.
Will?
No, but I'm aware of the full.
Oh, they're both full-time now? Okay. sorry.
Yes, so,
Clerk Colin had her hand up.
thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Renee Colin, County Clerk for the record. I just want to volunteer my services. I've been with the Safety Committee, involved with it for a very long time, and we've had many committees come through in the history of Curry County. We've done a fantastic job. They've done, like Carrie was saying, they've done above and beyond by taking on an extra role as a committee. I think committees work well because you get input and buy-in from all departments. You're working together. I'm here to, I haven't served for a while, so if you need somebody else to serve as chair or you want someone else to help with the committee, I'd be happy to take all my years of experience and help keep this thing going. As Carrie says, they've worked hard for where they're at. So I was just volunteering my service.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Court? Yeah.
I was going to try and just just pull Council Pope into the discussion. I know he's been involved and tried to assist where he can. So do you have any comments or anything, Council Pope, that could add to the discussion here?
Yeah, not really. Unfortunately, I was sick for the last safety meeting, so I wasn't there. But obviously, it is an important part of the county, and it's great to hear people want to volunteer and help out. But I think the more people from the more departments we have on that committee, the better it's going to function, because it's hard for us to understand what goes on. Everybody's day-to-day work. So the more input we have, the better we can be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So for the record, I just want to state that I feel like I might be part of the problem here instead of the solution, and I want to apologize. But we've got an incident going on where juvenile is going to move to the Colvin building, and there's some work needs to be done, and I don't know if it hasn't been done in the past or what. It doesn't matter, but I am me. So I said, what do you want me to do? And how can I help? And Waylon Summers volunteered, and we said we can fix the roof. These are flat roofs. And so there was some issues about, you can't get on that roof. You're not in the maintenance department. So I went to Anthony. He looked it up and says, no, you can get on that roof. And if you get close to the edge, one of you needs to watch and make sure that you're in. And so I hope and with all my heart that I am not the reason that people are jumping ship. And I hope in my heart that it's not because we're moving juvenile to the Colvin building. But if that's the case, there's an old saying that my kids hate. You can get glad in the same pants you got mad in, because that's who I am. If I need to empty the garbage, I empty the garbage. The other day I was squirting doorknobs with a sterilization thing. I tore a roof or a wall down in the assessor's office. That's just me. I know that it's probably not in the job description of Curry County Commissioner, but I'm not going to apologize for that. That's who I am, and I don't expect it from anybody else, but I'm going to be me. And I promise you, I grew up as a working guy and a contractor a lot, and these are flat roofs. It's like falling off a sidewalk. It can happen, but it's not very likely, and so that's for the record. Carrie, you got something?
All I was going to say, since you mentioned that, was the reason I resigned was just for the non-communication. The interpersonnel policies, it is expected that the county works with the safety committee, and I brought the safety concern of the roof incident because it was reported to me as chair, and that's what I was supposed to do. But it was the lack of communication of the follow-up afterwards. There was no follow-up back to the safety committee before the work was done, and I am neutral in the situation. It's just that a recommendation and something is supposed to come back to us. And when the senior risk consultant from SAFE is letting me know that the safety concern brought to me by an employee is not okay, and that just went nowhere, that's why, because the communication needs to be there. If we're going to have a safety committee, the concerns that are brought need to be valued, and the work that the committee done needs to be valued, and that was simply my resignation. So, and I've let the committee members know that I hope that in the future communication can be there, but that really needs to be an open line because that's what they're there for. They're an ally to the county and they're there to help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Court?
Not even you can fix a flat roof in this country. With the amount
Well,
of
we
rain.
got a plan.
And I don't think you need to apologize. This is a small county. It's like last week, and I was very sincere. If I've cleaned restrooms, that won't bother me a bit if it helps somebody else or helps a team, moves the program forward, if it saves money. And is a necessity. Just like you said, you cleaned off the doorknobs. I mean, we're all responsible to lead by example. So, you know, the only other thing I heard that could be valid, could be completely invalid, was that people don't want people in their offices, or was something are you aware that something like that might have been discussed, or there was potential hard feelings there? I don't know. I'm not even sure who told me, to be frank. But you know, if somebody that's on my list that I trust wants to come in my office, that is A-OK, and probably very good business. And anytime we can show an intent to OSHA or whomever, and no, we're not perfect, but we are determined and we are attentive, I think it'll bear fruit down the road. And so for you to also, one more thing, last thing, to check with Council Pope on if you can legally be on that roof. Yeah, I just appreciate that. We research that, and probably won't be the last time you'll be up there.
Well, when I get as old as you guys, then maybe I won't, but.
Okay.
I just find it amazing that you can be up on a roof, a more than one-story roof. And there's nothing in the books on that. I had guys when I was building my arena in a boxed-in lift, and they were roped to it.
Yeah.
And OSHA cited me. And they were roped to it. And it was just a lift. So anyway, I just find that amazing.
But
David?
that's all I had,
Okay.
thanks.
Real briefly, I spoke to Shelley Nasby last week also, and I'll forward you over the OSHA paperwork for what's required to be on a roof. You do need ropes, you do need guardrails. There are OSHA requirements. So she sent me the fast fact sheet. I'll forward it over to you when we leave. It's no big deal.
All right, so we can put this to bed?
Yep, I just want the board to know I did resign from my position there as well, for no other reason than I don't want to have to recuse myself from a safety committee vote, and I felt if I'm on the committee, I would have to recuse myself from a vote. So I'm letting Council Pope know that as well now, because he wasn't at the meeting, and so they're going to have a new vote, I think, at the next meeting.
Yeah, we
So
got our
perhaps
county clerk just volunteered for that, so that'll be good, maybe. Okay, H is done. I, appointment of alternate ARP Fund Stakeholder Committee member. Anthony Pope is leading this one.
Yeah, we had a resignation for the ARP committee, so the board needs to choose a replacement from the alternates. Got the order here, I just kind of put check marks as by the three alternates. If you guys could just make your vote on who you'd like to replace.
who resigned?
Gretchen Green.
Okay. I don't know any of this.
I mean, if you guys aren't comfortable voting yet, we could also have them submit some sort of statement or why they should be on the committee.
You want to politic?
Well, they had applications that they submitted before, correct?
Yes.
So do we have those still? That we did?
JJ, we still have those correct, yes.
I mean,
Well, when I said that, Chris, it wasn't directed at anybody, but
Right.
Keith is one of the alternates, so.
Okay.
That's, I don't know if I could even say that. Can he get up and do a song and dance about how he would be the best alternate? Do we want to,
And we could get together the applications maybe after executive session if you guys aren't ready to vote now.
Yeah, that way we can get it done today. I'd like to
Yeah.
get it done today if we can, yeah. So maybe,
Are you ready to vote today, or?
I'd be ready to vote today.
I
It's just If
voted.
I could just see the.
I'm not sure what my option,
Okay,
excuse me. I'm sorry.
that's all right, go ahead.
If I could just see the applications, give me 5 minutes on the applications, I'd be ready to vote today.
Okay, so
sure.
maybe after executive
Yeah,
session.
we could do it another, to bring it back in the other.
Yeah. So JJ, if you can get those electronically or something? Okay, you can hand that to Anthony,
Okay.
please.
I'm going to keep mine.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll come back to 6I, and right now we'll go to commissioner updates. Commissioner Boyce.
Hey, I'll load up a lot on I keep saying, never mind, October 6th, and, I basically referenced Association of Oregon Counties earlier today, so that was kind of in my report, and that's basically, the housing, the water, the broadband, the three biggest issues. They're also helping us with the Oregon Coast Trail. They provide other relationships around the state commissioners. This legislative summary, I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but that is tremendous work that they do. They're at the Capitol all the time. And there's more rural counties in Oregon than there are urban counties. And so even though all the counties, all 36 counties are members, not having them or having them there is just a huge benefit to Curry County. They work on public safety, law enforcement, road departments, always the veterans, human resources, and so just really proud to be able to be involved and to watch them grow and again, benefit us over the years. Our dues are quite appropriate and a very, very good investment. That's all I have for today, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Pash.
Oh, you're next.
Well, I'll
waving?
Yeah, I'll waive it.
I really don't have a lot either.
Okay. All right, then we are going to adjourn and go into executive session. Do I need to read that thing?
Yeah, I don't have it handy, though. Do you have it over there?
Now, the governing body will meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660, which allows the commission to meet in executive session to what? Representatives of news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session was as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. Thank you very much. Yes, Anthony?
I just want to read the two reasons we're going to go in the statutes. It's 192.6602H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed, and 192.6602A to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent.
Okay, thank you.
Council, may I, Mr. Chair?
Well, we have to do that. Can,
I was just going to ask,
session after executive session, and we've directed staff to work as directed. And now we're going to go to number 9, higher orders, and I'll look for a motion to approve. Do they have to be individual, Mr. Pope?
Yeah,
A,
individual.
B, and C. So a motion to approve rehire of a former employee custodian.
So moved.
second, Mr. Chair.
Been moved in second, and all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. New hire facilities maintenance worker.
So moved.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. New hire deputy treasurer.
So moved.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and seconded to hire new hire deputy treasurer. All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Adjourned.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We didn't want to waste any more of your time.